Witnesses told Columbus police Neil Smith tried to give the suspects the money, saying, "Just take it." They shot him 13 times anyway, killing him. But Columbus police say 17-year-old Jabril McClendon, 16-year-old Taiwan Gavin, and 21-year-old Keanu Logan saw the cash and followed Smith.
A terrifying attempted murder and robbery. It was caught on a camera in a Sun City neighborhood last week.
Police say 18-year-old Corey Hodge killed Diego Langham and shot and wounded his friend.
Pulls up. Hassel walks up behind Brown, points a gun, and shoots him right in the back of the head.
A mass shooting in a Spotsylvania County neighborhood.
3 people were killed, at least 3 others wounded, and the video from witnesses just downright terrifying. Fredericksburg City Schools on a 2-hour delay today as the community deals with the aftershock.
Police shared this clip of video with us, and they want to know the people who are in this video. This is from Evergreen Street. Before 5 this morning, officers say they found a man dead there. If you know anything about what happened, call Irving Police.
Got a question for you all. And this all comes about, what I'm bringing up comes about because I saw a tweet from Twitter X Twix, and it got me to thinking. I'm going to share the tweet with you guys in just a little bit, but I want to pose a question or pose a scenario with you guys. And let me just say this up front, that there is going to be some folks that are going to be bothered, upset, and after this, about an hour, I will give those of you, some of you, the opportunity, if you want to come on and you want to voice your displeasure or where you disagree, you are more than welcome to do so, because I really do want to hear what you have to say. If you think I'm wrong, then no problem. I would love to hear what I say that it is you disagree with. But let me pose a question with you, and I just pray and ask that you guys would be as honest as possible about what I'm asking you, about what I'm saying. Now, imagine you hear that a couple was just robbed. You're on your way back home, you're driving through your neighborhood, and you hear that a couple on the radio was just robbed and murdered in your neighborhood. The man that was robbed and murdered and the wife that was robbed and murdered, the man was a lawyer and the woman was an accountant. You are told that there were at least 2 men seen running away, and they are in your neighborhood. You're told to look out for any suspicious males. Now, do me a favor, and I want you to be honest. After what I described to you or told you this scenario, in your mind, describe what you think the assailants might look like. Be honest. Tell me what you think they look like. Tell me, go ahead and even tell me what color, that's specifically what I'm looking for, what color you think they are. Are you looking for some, well, I don't know, some Chinese men? Not that Chinese men don't commit crime, they do. Are you looking for some Indian men? And what I mean Indian, I mean for those from India. Who are you looking for? And then while you're imagining that, do this also. Imagine who the victims were. I said a lawyer and an accountant. There are black lawyers, black accountants. There are, but the likelihood is that, and by the way, this scenario was given, and the overwhelming majority, blacks, whites, Hispanics, Asians, assumed that, or they just naturally were predisposed to painting a picture of a black or black assailants and the victims being white. Why is that? Well, there's a reason why we have these different views, these different stereotypes. We'll get to, if you want to, why we think the cause of it is, but more importantly, we should deal with what the solution is. So now I'm going to ask you in the end what you think the problem is, every last one of you guys, and there will be a lot of you guys on here, and I'm going to also ask you at the end, what do you think the solution is? Because the solution is important, so much so that this is broadcasting not just here, but also on Facebook, but also on the smaller channels. And so moderators, make sure that you guys are going back. Let me fix this over here as well. Make sure that you guys are going back and forth to both sides to make sure that everything is going hunky-dory on both sides. But I want you to be aware of that. I want you to say in your mind, have in your mind what you think the problem is and what you think the solution is. That's important. So now, I think it's vitally important to deal with what's happening here in America. And let me tell you, and I'll come probably back to this tweet a little bit later, maybe, I'm not sure. But I do want to speed through this as much as possible. I'm going to show you some videos, some clips, and I do mean for you all to be bothered. I want you to feel upset. I want you to feel some anger. I want you to feel some type of way, whatever type of way that's going to cause you to think and think biblically and also logically. Be honest. Don't think based on the color of your skin, whether you be white or black. By the way, we're not even talking politics. We're not talking about who is in the White House. We're not talking about who used to be in the White House. None of those things. We're talking about a situation that is pervasive in our society. And I happen to think that there is a group of people that make up the worst culture, the worst group of people ever in the history of the world. That's pretty harsh to say, right? I mean, we've had some pretty diabolical people. We've had some horrible, nasty people in our world. So for me to say, and I stand by this, that there's a group of people who make up the worst group of people ever in the history of the world, I think that is this particular subculture that we see that is predominantly black. I'll tell you what I mean. Does it mean that all blacks? Nope. I don't think that all blacks make up this subculture of this black underculture. Nope. And I do believe that there are some white folks and some Hispanic folks that are also trying to jump in. But make no mistake about it, this is a predominantly black culture issue, a black issue dealing with more blacks. You'll have a smattering of whites, Hispanics, some Asians that they think that this particular culture, this underculture, this gutter culture, this hood culture, this demonic culture, this wicked evil culture is cool. I mean, sin is appealing to so many people. But I want to look at this tweet. The tweet, when I first saw it, made me feel a little bit uneasy, bothered me a little bit, and I want to put it up for you guys to see. What do you guys think about this? This is from Matt Walsh. Someone sent me this tweet, and I didn't know if they were trying to get me upset or wanted to see, to agree. I didn't know. And so I didn't want to just jump on something. But let me look at this. Let's read this. It says, if I told you that a young man stabbed another young man to death for telling him that he was in the wrong seat, and then I told you that one young man in this altercation was white and the other was black, and then I asked you to guess the race of the assailant, every single person would answer immediately, young black males are violent to a wildly, outrageously disproportionate degree. Let me read that part again. Young black males are violent to a wildly, outrageously disproportionate degree. That's just a fact. We all know it, and it's time we speak honest about it. So let me ask you guys a question. Mainly that point right there. When he says that young black males are violent to a wildly, outrageous, disproportionate degree. Is that true? What do you guys say? Do you guys go along with that? Do you believe that young black males are violent, not prone to be violent, not genetically disposed to be violent? That's not the point. That's not what he's saying. Do you think, or just ask yourself a question, it's 9 o'clock at night, it's 10 o'clock at night. You've got two gas stations that you can pull up to, one coming up or one just a little bit further down. The one that you're closest to is in the hood. You know what the hood is. A lot of black folks that live there. Or you can go a few miles down to the next gas station at 10 o'clock at night, one where it's a nicer neighborhood, well lit. Majority white folks live there. Which gas station at 10 o'clock at night do you want to go to? Or better yet, would you want your daughter to drive to? Or your wife? I know which one I'm going to. And I'm from the streets. I'm from the hood. I might even show you some video of one of the areas. Now I grew up, for the first 14 years of my life, we lived in 13 different neighborhoods, and half of those neighborhoods aren't even around. When I say the ghetto of ghetto, projects and roaches and drugs and violence and all those things, yeah, that's where I grew up in. And so it's not like I'm coming from the suburbs in Idaho. Not that there's anything wrong with being from the suburbs in Idaho, but the point is, do we have a problem? Was Matt Walsh, even though he's white, does he have a point? Well, let's go through some video footage. There's about 2 minutes of video. We'll go back and forth with the video footage. And again, I will send the link a little bit later if anyone is so outraged they want to join and disagree. Now, if you do agree, don't join. But if you disagree, I would love to have you come on. I've got one person already that is coming on. I'll I'll let you know who this particular guest is. You know who this guest is. Many of you have heard of this guest. I'll keep that a surprise. And then anyone else that wants to come on. But I want to show you these videos, and these videos should bother you. If you are not troubled by these videos, then, ladies and gentlemen, you are part of the problem.
Video from a convenience store shows the moment Gavin Melchor was shoved into the side of a car and on the ground by an unknown male in a white shirt. You see another male in a dark hooded sweatshirt kick Melchor in the head.
A group of men duking it out in the parking lot of a Valero gas station in West Houston. The victim outnumbered as he's punched, kicked, and chased from one side of the parking lot to the other. As he's driving away, the suspect decides he's not done and pulls out a gun, shooting twice in the direction of the victim's car.
Tonight, 2 convicted felons out on parole are back behind bars accused in this week's deadly triple shooting.
You've never seen anything like this before. A 12-year-old, just arrested for murder, is marched shirtless and in cuffs to a waiting car. Then a second suspect gets the same treatment, only he has a shirt on. The pair were...
Now, before I continue, there's going to be some... If you're black, if you have the same hue of skin that I have, there's going to be some discomfort. It has to be, because you're looking at people that look an awful lot like you. Now, I'm going to point out something also that, and I'm not joking when I say this, I'll get to this point in just a little bit, but it should bother you. Can I be honest with you? White folks, you can go ahead and listen to this. White folks, as a matter of fact, I want you to listen to this. Black folks have this conversation all the time. I don't care what side of the political aisle they're on. I don't care if they're liberal, conservative, Republican, Democrat. I don't care if they're wealthy, if they're in the hood. Black folks have this conversation about what sort of blacks that get on our nerves. We have a word that we don't like to say, but we do. A lot of us will use that word in describing these people. Yeah, it's not just you, because you're not the only ones with eyes. We have eyes too. We see it. Sometimes, though, we get a little bit in our feelings, because sometimes, and the problem with black folks is that sometimes we just don't want to be honest, because we don't want white folks thinking bad about us, and we don't want to participate in that. We know how bad we are, but let's just keep it in-house. The problem is, though, what's in-house is spilling out of the house. Yeah, so you can't have a flood in the house and then try to keep it calm, but it's pouring out into the streets. You can't have a household where you've got crazy dogs and the dogs are getting out. That's a problem for the neighborhood. When your kids who are not trained get outside of the house and start causing problems, that is a problem. Black folks, this is on us. And you can be upset, you can be mad, you can call me what you want. You can even try to come to me and say it to me. I don't have a problem. We can have this conversation. We got a problem with the hearts of young black men and women, because it ain't just black men. And should you decide, should you have a knee-jerk response to want to say it was them, it was that person, it was her, it was him, it was the government, it was the white man, it was slavery. Let me just throw out a actual stat. This is a jarring stat. This is a real life stat. You want to hear it? It should, but it won't, but it should quiet any and every notion having to deal with racism as a part of our problem. Do you know, in 2025, 2024, 2023, all of the 2000s, 1999, 1998, 1997, 1996, do you know that not one black person was murdered, robbed, raped, drugged, beaten, displaced because of slavery? Well, I said something right there. Let me say it again. Not one black person this year or the last, or matter really any year of your life, has been robbed, raped, murdered, poisoned, drugged, any of those things because of slavery. No death in America today by a black person or who is black is attributed to slavery. No black person died today because of slavery. No black person got another woman pregnant who was not his wife because of slavery. No one sold any drugs today because of slavery. No, that's not the case at all. I know a lot of people who sold drugs, did drugs. None of them did because of slavery. Not one. Yes, but Corey, you need to address the historical roots of these things. I can promise you, no one out there who's sinning is thinking about the history of sin. Who thinks about the history of sin when they sin? No, it's just naturally in you. You are just that kind of person when you do those things. And let's just be honest. The reason why your neighborhoods are as crappy as they can be is because you don't want to face facts.
Were charged with the slaying of 3 teens at Ocala National Forest that spread fear outside Orlando that a serial killer was on the loose.
Well, Jess, this is beyond disturbing. Almost 70 years, 70, separate the victim and...
Now, I want you to hear this one. All of these are disgusting. All of these are disgusting. But I want you to listen to this one. This one is really hard.
And the suspect in this case, police say it was 14-year-old Tyrone Harbin who raped and murdered 83-year-old Dorothy Mae Neal inside her own apartment.
14-year-old young black man raped and murdered a 79-year-old. No, I'm sorry, 83. I forgot the age, but she was almost 70 years his senior. This older woman robs her, rapes her, and then murders her. 14. Yeah, but it's society. He didn't have a place. 83. Yeah, he didn't have a place. He didn't have a father at home, which is a problem. We don't give enough to schools. We need more funding for these neighborhood programs. Yes, and it's the criminal justice system, and we need more jobs. Okay, save the excuse. Save the excuse. We got more to talk about.
Looking at 83-year-old Dorothy Mae Neal breaks your heart into pieces. The elderly woman assaulted and left to die in her own apartment, and now her alleged killer is behind bars.
Tyrone Harbin has been charged with first-degree murder, first-degree rape, various sex offenses. We were able to find physical evidence that linked him to the crime.
A Jacksonville rapper known as Julio Fulio. Jones was ambushed during his birthday celebration in Tampa last June. This is the shocking surveillance video from that night when Jones fled as a group chased him with guns in the parking lot of a Holiday Inn. Police say Jones is driving the black sedan while that group runs him down and fires multiple shots at the car. And these are the 4 men in custody in Allen's case, each facing second-degree murder, conspiracy to commit murder, and attempted first-degree murder charges.
Robert Perry and his 42-year-old stepdaughter arrived to look at a car advertised on Craigslist. Perry's stepdaughter went inside to cash an income tax check, and when she came back out, a decision was made by them not to buy the car. Investigators say that's when 20-year-old Soraya Atkins of Michigan and her alleged accomplice, 25-year-old Kimberly Lindsay of Mobile, stepped into the picture. Follow the victims nearly 15 miles to Bayou Jonas Drive in Codin.
The victims did not realize they were being followed until such time the suspects forced them off the road with their vehicle.
That's when the unthinkable happened.
The driver exited with a handgun and robbed and both of them and shot Mr. Perry.
Are you a killer?
Now, some of these criminals are just flat out stupid. They got caught because as they were driving and moving around, the car got stuck in the mud. But I want you to listen to the heartless nature of these two. These are 2 ladies as they are being brought in.
Are you a killer?
Did you shoot?
Did you shoot?
Did you know this guy had a family?
Did you know this guy had a family?
You hear mocking the reporter. Did you shoot him? Did you shoot him? Did you know this guy had a family? Did you know this guy had a family? Okay. I can promise you where she's going to be is she's going to cry. She's going to cry and she's going to hurt.
Get the up out my face. That's what y'all can do.
Someone else's life here.
Okay. Did you lose yours? Obviously not. Just stealing my face.
Why are you being so defensive about it?
Because I live my face with lights and cameras. What the you mean why I'm being
18-year-old Leighton Ridgedale was murdered in his own subdivision.
I just don't understand what kind of future they think they're going to have.
Columbus police now say that Makai Andrews and suspects Baron Anderson and Terrell Hicks Freeman were scheduled to meet with an unnamed witness to sell him a gun.
Watch the group of teens walk up and approach a red car. Another teen walks to the store and tries to get inside. The doors are locked. Then someone in a black car across the parking lot pulls out a gun and starts firing. The other young people retreat behind the red car.
Now remember, these are young kids. These are teens. These are people that should be at home doing homework right now.
And then pull out weapons of their own, and the gunfight begins. Bullets flying across the parking lot and down the street as the group of young men fire and then run away. In a media statement, police say the same group had entered the store minutes earlier, armed with handguns, and threatened to assault a person after asking for that person's shoes. They left and came back a second time when this parking lot gun battle broke out.
Now you notice they're fighting while the cops are there. What is it about you? You don't even care the cops are there. You don't care the cops are there, and this is us. Some of you all, I don't know if any of you all may have heard of this especially if you're in the DFW area, you have definitely heard of this. There was just recently, there was a young rapper. Now I hadn't heard of this person before, but there was a young rapper who was gunned down at a car wash. As a matter of fact, I think there was some chattering going back and forth where somebody who didn't like him, you know how it is, they're talking trash to each other. And this is different now. Their kind of trash is they play for keeps. Where you say you can't come to this side of town, you better not come over to the car wash or what have you. So he goes to the car wash, I guess to be defiant, and he comes in contact with some guys that want to kill him, and he brings his 5-year-old daughter with him.
Bush and double murder of music rap artist Ronnie Sibley and his 5-year-old daughter, Armani. They are 24-year-old Adonis Robinson and 21-year-old Jacoby Russell, both of Fort Worth. Public records show Robinson was arrested in 2019 and later convicted for the violent assault of a woman who was walking along a trail near Marine Creek Reservoir.
Now, two things. One, the guy that they just talked about, he's already a sex offender. Why he was out, I have no idea. He could not have served enough time to have gone through the system and come back out. I don't know why he was still out. That's a problem. As a matter of fact, let's before we go forward, I want to pull up a text that I think is always important to look at. This is Ecclesiastes. Let me put the thing over here as well. Give me 1 second. I didn't add something. Ecclesiastes 8:10. He says, "So then I have seen the wicked buried, those who used to go in and out from the holy place, and they are soon forgotten in the city where they did this. This too is futility, because," and look what he says, "because the sentence against an evil deed is not executed quickly, therefore the hearts of the Son of Man among them are given fully to do evil." So if you are in trouble and then the punishment is delayed, what happens? The person feels more emboldened, and they in turn their heart becomes colder, more evil, more wicked, more set on doing more crimes in this case, or sin. He should never been out. Now, here you have the situation where this rapper has got his 5-year-old baby in the car, and they shoot up the place, kill him and the girl. The mother, when you see this mother, this is the hardest part is the little girl dying. Then when you see her mother, the prayer is that she is with God, this little baby, because she's much better off than than being with this mother. And if you think that's pretty harsh to say, here's the mother after they're kind of celebrating the lives of these people and giving her some cash to go on. And let's just look how she's acting.
Yeah, security all day. Yeah.
Now she's saying, I know folks grieve differently. As a matter of fact, we're going to hear from her, and she's going to say that people grieve differently, but not like this. You said this is not just black people are doing this. You're right. It's not just black. White folks do it too. Hispanics folks, Asians, Native Americans, you all. But to what degree? In comparison, in the grand scheme of things, who does more? Who does more? Who commits the majority of murders in America? We know white folks kill. We know Hispanics kill. We know Asians kill. We do. But when we are 50 to 55%, I think right now it's 53% of all murders in America are blacks. 53%, ladies and gentlemen. Let us just sink in. Depending upon the census, 13, 14, 15, between 13, 16, 17, 18% of the population committing 53% of the murders. Your excuse is what now? 60+% of all crime committed by blacks. 60% of all crime in America is committed by blacks. And you're saying what? You're saying what? Why are you bringing up the president? The president has nothing to do with this. This president or the previous president. Well, that's what I'm asking you for. You tell me. I'll tell you why. I'll get there in a second. But the question I asked earlier, if any of you guys didn't hear, I want you to tell me what you think the problem is and what the solution is. And I mean a whole solution. They just need Jesus. Yeah, you're right. But I've got some shocking news for you that say they just need Jesus. I've got some shocking news for you. But before we do, let's go back to this young lady whose daughter just died and listen to her response to people who are saying, you're acting this way and your baby just got killed.
Yeah, I ain't gonna lie, I agree.
By the way, pardon me, I tried to blurt out as much of the profanity as I could, but there's still some in here.
A little different, y'all. Y'all took my baby, but I'm not motherfucking tripping on that shit, bitch. Bitch, he give him and he take him. Bitch, we all gotta die around this bitch. I ain't fucked up about it. I fucked up about how she left around this bitch, but I ain't fucked up about it. Fuck you talking about, bitch? Cause y'all know, y'all wasn't fucking with my baby around this bitch. And she going out this bitch and style Gucci everything. Fuck you talking about? Yeah. Come on. Bitch. And her baby daddy gonna be proud of everything, nigga. Shout out to Petey. Fuck you talking about?
A Dallas.
When I saw that, I didn't know what to say. This was amazing. Now you don't have to have a license or approval to have babies. You don't. But man, some people you wish you would have to give them a license. This is reprehensible. And lady, let me just say this: this young lady, she's not part of us. She's not part of our crew. She's not. I don't consider her to be part of the black population. I don't consider a lot of these folks that we're talking about to be part of the black population. No, I consider them to be part of another culture, the worst culture ever in the history of mankind. Now, some of you also, if you're in the DFW area, saw about this particular brazen display of criminality. Here you got some people driving down I-35. I-35 is a busy highway in Dallas. And so you got some folks who are so angry with each other, they decided, you know what, let's just pull over in the middle of the highway and let's get to shooting.
This rapper was murdered outside of his car on I-35 near the Dallas Zoo. Hello, I'm Steve Eager.
I'm Heather Hayes. It is a stark example of the city's struggle to control violent crime. Police say the victim, a hip-hop musician named Mo3, was approached by the killer on I-35.
Now let's pause for a second. As long as you all can see what's happening here, this is a 4-lane highway. The highway is a little bit wider now because of all the traffic. The highway is a whole lot wider now because of how big Dallas is. But these are cars that are going 60, 70 miles an hour, and these guys in the black, decide to pull over. They're kind of, I didn't show you earlier, but they're almost trying to knock each other over off the road, and they just stop. And the guy gets out of the car in this Honda. Now he's no angel. He's been known to be, well, I'll just leave it at that. He's no angel. But he's looking for his gun. I guess he can't find it quick enough, and so he decides to do the best thing he can do and run because the other guy has a gun and pulls out the gun. This is happening in 2021, 2021, 22, I'm not sure, in Dallas, in the United States of America.
5. Both men stopped their vehicles. The victim got out, took off, started running, but was shot several times on the highway. A bystander inside another vehicle was also hit.
So now you're going to see him running back. Look at the cars racing by. This is what we're happening. This is what we're seeing more and more of. This is what we're seeing, and what's the rationale? Now, before I continue and I go back to more scriptures, this isn't just the men. This is also the women. Yeah. Now, I don't know who told someone that being a hood rat or being like this is attractive. Ladies, you Your sisters, your daughters, your friends, if they look, dress, and act like this, tell them to knock it off. Stop it. That's not attractive. That is not attractive. And I can promise you that their men are looking for somebody else. If they're not, they don't know any better. But yeah, this is what escapes for, or this is what goes for ladies in certain people's culture. I don't know what this young lady's doing. And she's like, look, she's a cute little girl. I don't know why she's looking this way. This little ratchet hood little look, that it's not a good thing. And wouldn't it be cool? How cool would it be if ladies, black, white, Hispanic, whomever, aliens, Martians, doesn't matter, when you take a picture from now on, can you make sure that all of your pictures are where you're looking straight forward at the camera instead of you turn to the side and showing your behind? Trying to show your face and your behind at the same time in the camera, that's not a good look. And the person on the other end, when they're looking at that picture, they don't see anything good. Turn around and face the camera. Act like you got some sense. But let's go back to these hood rat ladies. So
I am.
Now I want you to hear what she. I'm sorry. And maybe my guest, when my guest comes on, my guest can tell me something about this. But listen to how she describes herself.
Ghetto, classy, crazy.
No, you're not classy. Not classy.
African American, hood chick. That's me right there.
No. This is where grandma needs to come out and just give you a whooping. She needs a whooping. I mean, a serious whooping. There's a passage. We've covered this before. A couple things. First, let's go to Isaiah chapter 3, verse 8. Let's read all of it. Now, obviously, this is the Old Testament, and this is dealing with Israel, but some of the same things we see are happening now. For Jerusalem has stumbled and Judah has fallen. This is because they have gone into a moving away from following God. And so what's the result? Because their speech and their actions are against the Lord, to rebel against his glorious presence, to the expression of their faces bear witness against him, and they display their sin like Sodom. We've got folks that want to display their sin as gloriously as possible. It's a good thing to act the way we act. We want everyone to know. As a matter of fact, we want to export our sin, our subculture, our degradation. We want other folks to be like us. Meanwhile, not realizing that we have made ourselves the laughing stock. But he says, they do not even conceal it. Woe to them, for they have brought evil on themselves. Say to the righteous that it will go well with them, for they will eat the fruit of their actions. Woe to the wicked, it will go badly with him, for what he deserves will be done to him. Do not think that God is not in the business of giving you what you deserve. Absent you placing your faith in Christ and being redeemed, don't think that God is not going to mete out what you deserve. Oh, my people, their oppressors are children. The folks that are committing these crimes, these are children. Their oppressors are children, and women rule over them. Can we stop for a second? Can we just stop for a second? And I want to talk to the women and the men. There used to be, in the black society, they would say that education is the great equalizer. We need to make sure that our kids are educated that way, that what's happening, what's ailing our societies, we can come up and do better. And you saw that. You saw economic gains from black society from the 20s, 30s, and 40s and 50s like no other society ever. And so all we said then was we just want our kids to get educated. That's all we want. Education is a great equalizer. Well, what really is a great equalizer? Well, what causes people or kids to be educated? What's the number one factor in determining if a kid is going to be educated? Well, the number one factor in determining if a kid is going to be educated is the same number one factor in determining if a kid is going to go to prison, if he is going to do drugs, be homosexual, if he's going to have a good income, if he's going to live longer, be healthy. the number one factor in all those things, in every positive socioeconomic metric, is fathers. Well, they didn't bring that up then because guess what? In the 20s, 1920s, black folks had fathers. We need daddies back. The problem is nowadays fathers aren't around. No good male, and please save it for someone who doesn't know to tell me that it's as if you have a child and you're not married, I want you to be involved as much as you possibly can. But unfortunately, you'll never ever have the same level of involvement as if you lived with the child. Two fathers, Bob and Earl. Bob has 2 children. Earl has 2 children. Bob lives at home with his wife and 2 children. Earl does not, but he goes and visits his 2 children. He gives them money and so forth. Earl, just by the mere fact of proximity, he can't do what Bob can do. Bob's presence matters. And if you think it doesn't, then you are discounting the value of a man being at home. When we look at these stats, this also includes bad males, bad fathers. If the father's at home, the child is more likely to do better. And that's including when the father isn't the greatest father. Sometimes just the presence of the man there matters. Because what can he or she do if I'm not in the house versus if I'm in the house? It absolutely matters. We've got kids who don't have good male examples. And the ones a lot of them have are weak, emasculated males. We've got some people who the girls that are growing up, they don't see strong men. Sometimes the strongest men they ever see is their brothers or their cousins who really aren't that strong either. They're relying on some other woman to help them to get by. And I'm not saying that women can't do a good job of raising a boy, but let's just be honest, the numbers are clear. They don't do nearly as good a job. They can't do nearly. Notice this. Males who go to prison or do drugs or commit murder, they're far less likely to do those if the father's at home. But do you know that stat is virtually the same if it's only the father and the mother's not there? The effect of fathers on boys is without question important. I was going to play a clip. I'm not going to play it, but I saw this clip. It was a little bit kind of hood-ish. But there was a brother who his son was doing some stuff online and holding up some guns or talking some stuff, and the father recorded a video of him chastising that boy and even slapping that boy. That was a little harsh, but the boy got the message. I'll never forget this. I will never forget this as long as I live. My father told me this was after I was homeless. I was just being a knucklehead. And I won't say the words that he says, but you all are smart enough. You're with it. You can understand what he said. He said to me, I asked him, I said, well, Daddy, I need some money. I'm trying to, get myself back in school and this and that. And he pulled the car over and put it in park and looked at me. I remember the look he had on his face. This was the way Jimmy might have looked at me that day. There was a certain fear, not that he was going to do something to me, but there was a certain fear in my heart. He said, boy, quit acting like a little bee. Y'all know what the B word is. Quit acting like a little bee. Get that bee up at you and start acting like a man. I'm not giving you a blank thing. Why would I give you some money if you don't know how to be a man? You a man, ain't you? Be a man. Quit acting like a little bee. And I still remember to this day. And it was one of the best speeches he ever gave to me. I'm not giving you anything. I'll help you if you helping yourself. I'm not raising no girls. Not no shot at no girl. I'm just saying what he said. I'm not raising any girl. I need you to be a man. And I wasn't. And so what did I do? I went and got me a job working as a CNA, a nurse, what do you call it? Certified nurse assistant at a nursing home. Not making a lot of money, but I started working as many hours as I could, overtime, working. There were times I worked 2 shifts, do it on holidays, and just build my money up to put myself back in school. Oh, and I'll never forget my father said, boy, son, I'm proud of you. That meant so much to me. Because all he wanted, he knows how the world is. Knows how the world is. And so today we've got a bunch of women who don't respect the black men. Here's the sad part. We've got a bunch of good black men in this chat right now. And that are going to watch it later, who are going to be guilty by association. In other words, they'll look at you, they'll look at me, someone else, but they won't see us. They'll see those guys in the earlier videos. That's what they'll see. What is the cop supposed to, when the cop pulls you over, what's he supposed to think? Let me put you guys on the side. When the police officer pulls you over and you're black, what do you think is going through his head? Now remember, this your first time interacting with a cop, but it's not his first time interacting with somebody black today. Or this week or this year. What's going through his head? What's going through that judge's head when you go in his court? See, one of the things that we've done is we've presented a bad look for us as black people. Now, I'm not considering these same folks to be part of the same culture because they have a different culture. They have a made-up culture. So sometimes the reason why we see what we see, I'm not giving it a wink. I'm not giving a pass of what's happening if someone does something they shouldn't do. But yeah, it might yeah, exactly. They think this might be a threat. So you know what I'm not going to do? I'm not going to give them any reason to think that I'm like the person that they had encountered the first time, which I won't anyway. But let's just be honest. Let's just be honest, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Us people that have the same hue, the same skin tone as us, we are in many cases, like it or not, fair or unfair, you might not like it, but we have in many cases become a laughing stock to a lot of people. How do you think the world views black American, is particularly black men? How do you think most of the world would view black American men? Or just black Americans, period? And then ask yourself this question. You don't have to write the response in here, but how do you view black Americans, whether you're white or Hispanic or black? We can go back to Walsh's tweet. A lot of us are just. I got my guest coming in. I'm bringing you over in just a second. Hold on real tight. Bring you back up in about 15 minutes. But we have this desire to keep these low standards and don't care about it. We don't complain about the low standards. We just complain about someone complaining about our low standards, especially when our low standards spill out into the community. I'll never forget my mother. We lived in these apartments, and my mother went next door and went off on the neighbors. Well, why did she go off on the neighbors? Not because they were loud. She said, y'all didn't do a better job of cleaning your house. Because we sprayed, we got parts taped up. We don't want roaches over here. But your little filthy house is causing bugs, little critters to come over here. Oh, no. And so she said, if you need to, I'll come over and help you. Stop letting our mess spill out. And it's making us, you literally make it harder for your children. Especially, and here's what makes it worse, when you turn around and give a sorry excuse. Again, not one person today, not one black person today, or last year, or the year before, or the last 50 years, died, was raped, murdered, robbed, beat up, drugged, sold drugs because of slavery. Not one. Not one. We get offended by everything else except for what's really happening. We don't get offended by the degradation in our society. Not at all. Not at all. We've got lawlessness. It's promoted. We've got this stuff with our music. Now, I work out, and I've got my little workout songs, and I was looking at something. I was getting in, I came out of the, I was born in the 70s. I was born in 72. So I'll never forget, I was playing a song. It's an old Ice Cube song, and I was getting a clean version. Well, it had, when I had to download two of them, the clean version, the bad version. And the bad version was playing. I couldn't turn it, so I just kept it playing. And I noticed something. It kept bleeping out certain words. Now, y'all forgive me, but it never, I won't say it because I don't have to, but you all know. It was N-word every other minute. That word didn't get bleeped out. But when it got to Jew or white, that word got bleeped out. And I'm thinking, wait a second, you mean to tell me that these people are more, you can't say Jew in the song, but you can say the N-word 47 times? And it got me to thinking, that's because they value their culture. We don't. We don't mind somebody making $1 off of the word. We ain't got a problem with it. And yeah, I know somebody, well, yeah, but the white man gave us that and because of history and so forth. But yeah, say what you want to say, but all this we're talking about, history doesn't play not one role in this. How much does history play in this horrible culture that we're seeing, the worst culture in the history of mankind? None. Yes, it does. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Bad standards. People telling you that you're this low and it's okay. People pampering you for being this low and it's okay. And I'm not going to be able to get to all of my clips, but I want to play this particular one here. I want to play this particular one. I'm going to play two of them, and then I'm going to bring in my guest. We got this issue with music. The Bible says this, before I do. The Bible speaks about, Jesus says this. Now, this is Jesus, y'all, so pay attention. Jesus says, it's not what enters into the mouth that defiles a man, but what proceeds out of the mouth. This defiles a man. Why? What comes from that? Murder, strife, envy. Remember what we read in Romans 1? All the different things that come out of Romans 1, these are things that are in the heart. Look what he says. Being filled with all unrighteousness. We only associate this with homosexuality in most cases, but look what he's saying. Being filled with all unrighteousness, wickedness, greed, evil, full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, malice. They are gossips, slanderers, haters of God, insolent, arrogant, boastful, inventors of evil, disobedient to parents, without understanding, untrustworthy, unloving, merciful, and although they know the orders of God. Now, we got folks that will still give a wink and a nod in the past, folks that do those things. What we just read, does that describe this black subculture? And I know that there's a couple whites, a couple Hispanics and Asians that want to participate in it. But listen, we invented this one. We invented this one. Does that describe us? Yeah. Well, I say them. Yes, it does. And I want to play something, and I've got to be careful because I know I'm probably going to get a copyright strike on this. I'll try not to. So I've got to keep interrupting this part. But I was watching something, and it's a father and daughter who do they do videos of different stuff, and they're singing, really the little girl. And they were singing this song, and I was like, I never heard this song before. The song was called, some of you guys may have heard, it's called Ante Up. Ante Up. And I went to go look for the song. This is indicative of this horrible society, this horrible culture. Listen to the words. I've got to start and stop in this thing so I don't get a copyright strike, but I want you to hear this.
The they grew up with was not this culture.
Oh, wrong one. Hold on. Where is it at? There it is. I'm sorry. He says, and let me put my face on this. That'll help me with the copyright strike if I just put my beautiful little bald head face on here. So let me put this up here. He says, take things off, take chains off. Talking about robbing somebody. That's what this is about, y'all. Robbing somebody. Ante up. And listen, the song kind of gets you in like, okay, yeah, now you're bobbing, you're moving or whatever. What they say and what they said is entering in your ear, or if you're watching it, in your eyes. Fool what you want. Is that what we have? Yeah, Brian B. Yep. I hadn't got to that part, but he says, kidnap that fool. Tie him up naked, run up in Granny's house. your life or your jewels. So when you hear this stuff and you are stupid, because you're 8 years old, you're 10 years old, you're 15 years old, you're 20 years old. Let me just say this. I'm not just trying to be ugly, but if you're 20, you're still stupid. 25, you're just not as stupid, but still stupid. You get to be about 40. The only reason why you're not as stupid as a 40-year-old because you realize how stupid you were in your 30s, 20s, and teens. And then you're less stupid in your 50s because you're like, hey, you know what? I know it, and I'm moving slow, so I don't do too many stupid things. That's all. I'm sorry, Keyshawn. Listen, how you get peace in life is you get old and realize I'm not that smart. I'm pretty dumb. And you will save yourself a whole lot of, because how many times have we got in trouble thinking that we knew what to do and didn't? How old is it? Dutch says it's 25 years old. Okay. Why? Is it that old? Okay. All right. That's your song, huh, Dutch? I'm kidding. I didn't know how old it was. I thought it was a fairly new song. And then I saw on, I got the video. I was like, this video was 15 or 16 years ago. I was like, wow, I didn't know how old it was. But still, the problem is you got kids that listen to this stuff. And so I want to play what y'all saw what Thomas Sowell was saying, and let's play him, and then I'm going to bring on my guest.
Grew up in America today.
So they had...
There's no gang culture. The culture in which they grew up was not the culture in which black kids grew up in America today.
So they had...
There's no gangster rap that was pervasively available in Germany.
Now, what you're watching is there's a little boy named Lil RT. This little boy, I think at the time he was 9 or 10, and he's doing the video, and he's got these two despicable ladies, half naked, letting the boy slap them on the behind. That's what's happening. Look at this now, and she's grinding on him, and it's okay. And now look who shows up to the party.
Check him out, Joe.
Now here's Drake. I think we got him from Canada doing this to this boy. Every last one of them should be in jail. Now, what he was talking about, what Thomas Sowell was talking about was, and this just shows you how it's not a black thing. It's not a black thing. It's a culture thing. He's talking about blacks who had children with German women during the war and how these children fared.
But freedom is not enough.
I'm sorry. He's going to say it after this because he brings up what LBJ is saying, and this is a lie from LBJ.
You do not wipe away the scars of centuries by saying now, you are free to go where you want and do as you desire and choose the leaders you please. You do not take a person who for years has been hobbled by chains and liberate him, bringing up to the starting line of a race, and then say, you are free to compete with all the others, and still justly believe that you have been completely fair.
Now, he's lying. He's wrong. Meaning you don't bring people up who have been oppressed, who've had these different things and say, now start, now run. No. How about, and if I were around, I would have told him, how about you shut up? How about you shut up and get out of the way, Mr. Man, Mr. White Man? I don't want you telling me how much you're going to help me, because it never works. It never works. All we ever wanted was just for you to get out of the way. That's all we ever wanted. Because what has every other group of people in America wanted? The same thing. Those from India, those from China, those from Taiwan, those from any place, including not just them, but other blacks from other areas. So let me play this other clip. I'm going to give you this stat, and then I'm going to bring on this next person with me.
It's pathetic. It's not a question of, there's no you who has the control to be completely fair or completely unfair. I mean, the circumstances are, so someone once criticized the mental tests on grounds that the tests were unfair. And I think it was David Reisman who said, the tests are not unfair. Life is unfair, and the tests are measuring the results. But who has control of life? Who has control of the past? Who has control of the culture that people have in the present, which they've inherited?
In Intellectuals and Race, you cite an observation by the intelligence expert, IQ scientist James Flynn, that just stopped me cold. After the Second World War, you've got large numbers of American troops remaining in Germany. For that matter, there's still several tens of thousands there today. And both black and white American soldiers had children with German women. And Flynn discovered that those children growing up in Germany showed no IQ differences at all. The black kids and the white kids, the same. Quoting Intellectuals and Race, Professor Flynn concluded that the reason was that the offspring of black soldiers in Germany, and now you're quoting Professor Flynn, grew up in a nation with no black subculture, close quote. Which means what? Which means they experienced exactly the same expectations. Is this the...
No, the expectations are external.
So here we've got a case where you've got black kids and German kids who are growing up and their IQ, their achievements are exactly the same. Because no one is telling them that you are at a disadvantage. No one, the expectations are different. The standard is different. One of the most powerful things that could ever happen to a person is to have that person become disciplined. Is to have that person get punished when they step out of line. And so I'm going to bring on, and I'm going to also open this up in a little bit as well for you guys who want to come on just a little bit. But before I do, I want to bring on, let me fix this. Hold on one second because I'm about to mess something up. I forgot to do this. Let me do this. Let me do two things first because I'm never right where I'm supposed to be. Let's do that. All right. And then let's call that guest. I'm setting up my scenes, Miss Ma'am, that I didn't do because I didn't feel like pushing all my buttons on my, what do you call this thing, on my Stream Deck. So let me go over here and call this, call this one right here. Let's call this guest or label this guest so I can bring you on. There it is. That way I can bring you on real proper like. And so who am I bringing on? Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you all, Miss April Chapman.
Oh, I don't have all my lights on.
You don't have your lights on? Well, hold on. Let's do it all over again. All right.
No,
now she's gonna fix her lights and stuff.
I'll have him come turn them on because I look so dark. Is it me? Don't I look dark?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I have my screen in front of me that's a little bit darker, so I really can't tell. And then the camera in front of you, you're not on that one. So, but it's okay though. It's okay. How you doing?
My workplace partner's coming to the rescue.
Say that again. Oh, he's coming. Okay.
Yeah.
And now let's just so we can be clear, because somebody might say something. You are married to a black man, right?
Oh yeah, he's foundational black. He like black.
He's foundational black. Okay, so he can. What happened?
You hit the camera.
Okay, doggone it.
No, it's all right.
I got you.
No, wiggle. Come on.
What happened right here?
There we go.
All right, doggone it. Hold on, wait a second. I done did the wrong thing. Hold on one second, April. Hold on. Let me. Okay, let me do this. Let me take you off of here. Hold on. Okay, now let me. I've got the wrong. Let me lock that. Now let's go back. There you are. Okay, now we'll get it straight. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is April Chapman, formerly of Standard of Truth podcast. But what happened was she got uppity and decided, you know what, my name is all I need. It to be April Chapman. That's it. That's all you need to know.
It's unshakable with April Chapman.
See what I'm talking about? Uppity. I'm just kidding. But so now you've been hearing this, and you have said things toward. Matter of fact, more so than I have, especially over the last year or so, dealing with what ails the black community. What are your thoughts? And then, by the way, guys, don't forget I asked you a question. I asked you what do you think the problem is, and then also what the solution is. So, what say you, April?
Well, I caught the tail end of the conversation, particularly when you were talking about the music, and then you brought on Thomas Sowell. Just to give people a point of reference, I'm born and raised in Bronx, New York. Inner city, as urban as they come. Single mom, several generations of, I call it matriarchal squalor. meaning we had no family history of a man and a woman living in a bona fide state of matrimony. I had no firsthand experience of what it was like to live in a home where there was a man around, right? And so when I examine the culture and we see what I call the moral rot or the moral degradation of the Black American community, I don't believe that we're just genetically predisposed to violence or there's some sort of abnormality or defect in how God created us, right? I don't believe that's it at all. This is a culture problem. And when we say culture, I'm talking about there's a subculture of what I would call that hyphenated America, the African Americanism, where we are indoctrinated with a couple of different worldviews where we don't really aspire, where other people groups are taught to put their best foot forward and to walk with their heads held high, particularly if they're first generation immigrants and they have a part and parcel and some sort of ties to this country. We've been here for generations, but yet our outcomes are considerably more negative than other people groups. And when I examine just the last 100 years, we weren't always that way. We weren't always that way. One thing I would say is this is a family problem. When you break down the family or you incentivize family breakdown by way of government dependence, feminism, the idea that, a single mom is just as good as a two-parent household, you're going to experience unintended consequences as a result. So a lot of the violence that we see happens. Fathers restrain evil and lawlessness in the family structure. They're like that first line of defense that God instituted when it comes to a family. You need a man and a woman together, absolutely. But it's something about the patriarchal authority of a father that restrains, I would say, lawlessness in the home. So, where when you have a healthy fear of God and then a healthy fear of your father, you are less likely to go out and enact justice on your peers. You have just this respect for authority because you're used to submitting to a father in the home. And you just recognize healthy gender roles, healthy submission to authority, and you kind of just move and function in the world vastly different than children who were raised by just a mom. I was raised by just a mom. I am speaking from firsthand experience that I struggled with even submission to authority. Like if someone would say something that I didn't like, that feminine, I'm gonna snap back energy versus let me listen to, is this person levying criticism that's legitimate? Did I hear what they actually said, or am I filtering this through my emotions? Like these are things I had to learn as an adult, because that emotional regulation that would have been there if my father with that deep voice said sit down, and you gonna sit down, I'm not gonna say it but one time. It's different. It hits different when daddy says it than when mom says it. Love my mother. She did the best that she could. But what we see happening in the culture today, I think it is a cultural problem where we've had generations of bastards raising bastards, and that's not a profane use of the word. I mean it in its exact definition. We have a whole lot of out of wedlock births, and those are not healthy family structures to raise children in. And as a result, our males lack emotional regulation and self control. They are angry because think about it like this. Some would say, oh, poverty is the problem. I would say, okay, we can make an argument for poverty being the problem, but it still goes back to family structure. Black folks, we're not strangers to being poor. We were poor in slavery. We were poor during Reconstruction and Jim Crow. Like, we're just not, you know what I'm saying? Like, we ain't never had a monopoly on income and wealth distribution in our communities. But what was different was we had a belief in God, right? Even if it was just a cursory acknowledgement of this higher power, and we had family. When those two things started breaking down, and now you've got these separate households, mama's over here and daddy's over here, absolutely there's going to be poverty because mom, she's out working. She can't really enact the level of authority and oversight and discipline that she needs to because she has to provide. And the amount that she's able to provide on her own is vastly different than if it was the mom and dad working together. So now the children are growing up unattended, feeling grieved and a sense of covetousness because it's like, well, I want things, but my mom can't afford to get them to me. So I might just go out and steal it because I believe we had a generation that was told that everything that was happening to them was not their fault. It was the system. And so if you grow up in an environment where personal responsibility is not the standard, but rather it's easy to push the blame on everything else out there, you're going to grow up with a sense of entitlement, lack of accountability, that poverty piece comes in, the lack of family structure and paternal oversight. It's just a recipe for recklessness and lawlessness.
Yeah, let me throw out a couple of stats here.
Okay.
Because these people who come here to this country, who are a little bit darker than me and you, who come from more impoverished places than you and I started off, the average income for non-American blacks, for foreign-born blacks,
right,
in the first generation is about $4,000 more than blacks who are native-born. Why do people who come from Nigeria or from the islands or from any other place or from Tanzania or the Congo, why do they come here not knowing the lay of the land? They might have a little bit of a translation issue,
right,
certainly a cultural issue, and they do better than we do. Because you can talk about Russians coming here, well, they look white, or Germans, or Asians. Well, yeah, they don't look white, but they're not black because they think that everyone's against blacks. Well, what about people from India? Now, you would think that they would probably be somewhere around us, those who are from India, but no. But when it's somebody from the islands or somebody from Africa, literally from Africa, and who ends up becoming a true African American, they earn far more than after the second generation, they earn far more than we do.
Right.
And so it's not, it can't be race. It can't be the system. It can't be the police officer and things like that. You want to hear a weird stat? This is a weird stat. 18 or 19 people were, depending upon who you ask, 18 or 19 unarmed blacks were killed by police officers last year.
Okay.
20 Hispanics were killed by police officers. 25 unarmed whites were killed. I think the rest, 8 unknown. I don't know who the unknown were. And then 1 Pacific Islander who was unarmed, killed by police officers. Wow. But here's the funniest stat. 2022, it was 12 blacks that were killed, 12 unarmed blacks killed. Just 12. Now, you would have thought, with all the rhetoric, that it was a few thousand, a few hundred. Here is the funniest stat that I heard in a long time. I had to look this up to make sure. 12 unarmed blacks were killed by police officers in 2022. Do you know how many people were struck by lightning in 2022?
More than 12?
19.
Oh!
19. You had a better shot of God being upset with you and just throwing a lightning bolt at you than... So... Now, we've got some ready-made excuses. Remember that we were just coming off of the quote, the summer of love, and you still got folks protesting and things like that because someone told them that somebody's against you. Well, you got more people being killed by lightning than by police. Police aren't our issue. The government, white folks, AT&T, Walmart, Target, whoever it is, they're not an issue. What if we just had less folks like us killing more folks like us?
Right.
I think that would solve a huge problem, but Now I want to play this. And I've got some more folks that want to come on.
Well, before you can I engage with you asked what's so different about those first generation Africans. My answer to that is they aspire, like when they are over there and they see the promised land of America and they recognize that this country is a ladder, that you can come here and start at the bottom and go as high up on that ladder as you want. They don't have this mental roadblock that the government hates them. You want to know why? Because they're like, I don't need the government to like me or love me for me to come over here and by the sweat of my brow get the bag, right? They have a language barrier. They have a completely different cultural paradigm in which they operate in, and they learn how to come into our country and figure it out with nothing but the coat on their back and a suitcase. And that tells you right then and there is an inner aspiration, it's a mindset shift that takes place because they recognize there is no place better than America. And if I can leave my country of origin and go there and figure it out in one generation, nothing stops me. It's they aspire to do better versus internalizing a victim narrative. And truth be told, it's our own people that are trying to convince us that we're oppressed and that we're the victims. And when I say our own people, I'm talking about that iron triangle. That's your black preacher, that black civil rights worker, and that black politician. They all work together to keep us as the ideological slave, and it makes me so angry.
Yeah,
because my kids ain't grow up listening to not three of them. They have no concept of not being told that they are a victim and that they can't do whatever it is that they aspire to do in the world. They've never listened to the trifecta of the iron triangle. So it's a foreign worldview to them to be told that the police are hunting them down, or that the white man hates you and this country hates you. They don't even know how to engage with that type of foolishness.
Yeah, I never forget my father when I one of the best things that ever happened to me. How I grew up. Let me put this on. Someone said I should show this. This is some of my hoods. Let me take the volume off of this thing as well. But this is, and I'll tell you this story about my father.
It was rough. There's a lot of pain out here, really. It's just some of the things that you may know.
By the way, let me pull this back. This little area right here. This is where we grew up. To the left of this guy, or over his right shoulder, I guess the left of the screen. I guess those apartments are not there anymore. I'm not sure if those apartments are not there anymore. But that little triangle building over to the right. That my grandfather used to work at that church. That's a church. I don't know what it is now. At least it used to be a church. But he's talking about how bad Indianapolis is.
It was rough. There's a lot of pain out here, really. It's just some of the things that you may notice if you stumbled upon the town and terrace community near 42nd and Post Road on the city's northeast side. So ain't nobody got nothing to do. You know what I mean? If we look up to the wrong people, we don't got no.
Now, those used to be the good apartments. When we lived on 42nd and Post, now this was where I used to live, and then right across from those. Now, they weren't as bad, but it was rough. And so I'll never forget this, though. So I was growing up with my mother. The reason how I got to go stay with my father was because we had a hit put out on us. Mom was messing with somebody's drug money, and so we had to go.
Y'all was about that life.
Well, not really, because we left. If we was about that life, we'd have got strapped up and went and did. No, I'm kidding. No. But yeah, so things were going down, and so we left. We moved out of Indianapolis to Milwaukee. Then we moved back, and because my mother just didn't have the money to take care of us. And so I stayed with my father, and it was talk about a culture shock. My father hit me with some discipline. And I'll never forget this because I didn't have this with my mother. She loved me, and my mother was a fighter, and she was a scrapper, but she just couldn't. I'm bigger than my mother, so my mother gave me a whipping. The last whipping she gave me, I laughed. It's like, what are you doing? So my father, one day, I was in school. He said, no, it was before school started. He said, boy, don't bring home no C's, no D's, and you better not bring home any F's. And he said, don't ever let me hear you say that the white man is the reason why. The white man, this white. Don't let me hear you. I don't want to hear nothing about the white man. Okay, I wasn't thinking nothing about it. This was before school started. Right. First report card came, and he was ready to see my report card because he believes, hey, get good grades. Because he believed if you get good grades, you can go where you want to go. You can write your own check. And so I came home. I had a decent report card. It wasn't, scholarship type, but I had I know I had an A in gym. I had that. I had a B. I think I had maybe one C. So it was mostly B's, an A, and then at least one C. I forget what the C was in. Who knows? And he asked me a question. He wasn't really upset. He said, okay, son, it's pretty good. This is a pretty good report card. He said, I don't like them C's because if you can get a C, you can get a B. And if you can get a B, you can get A. All it just takes is a little bit extra time. So I'm thinking, okay, cool. My daddy's not upset about this C. He said, but now, so what happened? How you gonna get a B? Well, Daddy, I don't know. The teacher, she kind of rough on all the black kids. All of us having this. And I started going down this white road of guilt, blaming my teacher. And you know how it is when your parent Well, I didn't know that was code to duck. He hit me. Bam. And I mean, he hit me. I'm talking about go to jail, hit your kid kind of hit. And he said, look here, you little blankety blank. Don't you ever tell me something about, I told you about saying a white man. If you get all the answers right, I don't care what the white man say to you. If you get all the answers right, what he gonna do? He gonna give you an A, you little, and he cussed me out. You gonna get an A. So tell me about the white man again. Now that was discipline, in the 80s, right? So
my dad that was discipline similar, but it was that was the first time I experienced my dad actually trying to hold me to a standard when I tried to say, because I went to an all-white boarding school for high school and I was on scholarship, and it was just it was academically vigorous, and I just wasn't used to being challenged that way. And you got a C, I got a D. I got a D in modern European history, and I tried to, but it ain't Black history, and you expect me to remember all these dates about, Queen Anne and bloody what was her name? Bloody Mary. And he let me go on and on and on, and he cussed me out on the phone and said, I don't know whose child you think you are, but I don't ever want to hear you blaming a white person for your lack of discipline and keeping your head down in those books. And I was offended. I mean, I ain't talked to my dad for like 6 months after that phone conversation.
Well, that's what's needed. Matter of fact, that's a good segue. I want to play this next part because this is the part that touches me. And then I'm going to bring on some other people. There is a guy who's waiting to come on who is a certified, I think they call him a certified coon. I think a certified coon bootlicker. That's just, yeah. So we're going to bring him on just a little bit as well. But before I do, I want to play this. This is the part that when I first saw it, it did something to me. It had me really ready to cry.
To support the charges, considering the relevant factors, the charges, he is ordered held without bond.
This moment is tough to watch, but it was something that Zaquavius Dawkins' family says they needed to be here for.
Now I'm gonna come back to it, but this particular boy is being charged with murder, and he's finding out that guess what? You ain't going home. You're not getting the bond. You're going right back there. And guess what? There is no junior section back there. You're going back there with the men. Stay tight. Keep a stiff upper lip. Keep your head on the swivel. Be quiet. But you ain't, and you see it hitting them. Now, I've seen this happen a bunch of times. Let me just, and I want to show this next part. This did something to me. This is a young man in New Orleans who is out with the wrong people. And the police show up. This young boy was blessed when the police showed up because one of the police officers that showed up happens to be his uncle. And listen, look what the uncle does to him. Now, that resonates with me. I can't tell you how many guys that I've seen who needed that. Now, I don't know what's happening in the boy's life personally at home. Maybe his uncle, he's his uncle because his sister is his mother. And I don't know. Doesn't say.
Right.
But that man got in his face, and he looked around because he wanted to do something to him. And I didn't play the part where he hit him and pushed him, but then he hugged him.
Oh, I want to see that part.
And the boy just broke down. I have seen this over and over and over and over again. I can't tell you how many times I've seen men break down because somebody else showed them that they cared, loved them enough to give them what they needed, and then also put their arm around you.
Right,
Man, I will beat your everlasting blankety blank, but I love you to death. Come on over here. I'm going to be on you till you die, until I die. But I'm going to love you till you die too.
Right.
And that resonates.
Have you ever heard the story of Mike Tyson talk about how when he was like 13 years old and he was training to fight, and I think it was a white gentleman who came into his life and basically was so hard on him, making him get up super early in the morning, making him do all kinds of just pushing himself athletically to all these other extremes and requiring all this discipline. And when they asked him, did he hate it? He was like, no, I loved it. Because he's being raised by his mom. He was like, no one had ever loved me enough to give me tough love and to put restraints on me and to require a standard. He said it was almost, people would argue today that the man was being abusive, and he said no. He was like, I loved it.
Do you know who that man was?
Telling me what to do, tell me what time to get up, tell I better not do this. He loved it.
Do you know who that man was? I know. I'm saying, do you know who the man was? His name was Customato, an old white man. Customato, an old white man.
Right.
And it didn't matter if it was a white man, a black man. He just needed somebody to show him some love and some discipline.
That's
and we don't have that. The boys don't have it. The girls don't have it. We're too lenient on this group, and so it's nothing for them to go and grab a gun. Why? Because the buddies told them to. Why are they listening to their buddies? Because their buddy is giving them more time, more attention, more affection. Now it's not a homosexual thing, but putting your arm around a young man, that does something for him. Just a touch of another man. And I don't mean in that way, but put your arm around him. Hey man, listen, I'm gonna be there for you, but I'm gonna be in your behind if you do the wrong thing. But I'm also be there, man. Come on, we're gonna do this. You're gonna push him, you're gonna pull him, you're gonna love him, you're gonna lift him up, you're gonna drag him, all those different things, and he's gonna appreciate you. He's gonna be. That's how it used to be. Yep. That's how it used to be. We used to have men that would regulate the neighborhood because they wouldn't tolerate certain things. Even if when I was growing in my neighborhood in the 70s, we had some houses that had fathers, half did and half didn't. Half did, half didn't. And the fathers that were there, they regulated the neighborhood. Right. And there would be times, I never forget, there's one guy who his mama would always go either to the neighbor to the left or to the right and get the man there to come whoop his son. And they would be on this. This boy was a straight A student too. So now that being said, let me go ahead and bring on, and there's a few other folks waiting, but let me go ahead and bring on this particular guy. He is, and I don't know how he got this, but he is the neighborhood, what they call him, the coon, the bootlicker, all those different things that they get because they feel like. By the way, let me ask a question. Also, let's just for public disclosure. You are married to a white woman, Asian woman?
No.
She black?
I'm married to a black woman.
Okay, that's why I just want to make. Listen, because the reason why I asked that question is because, and April, I'm sorry, I had your volume turned down because somebody is going to say these are people who they only make these statements because they sold out. They with somebody white. Corey, you got a white wife, but if I move to the side, y'all can see it right on my head. That's a black woman. She darker than both of y'all. So right. Yeah, I had to put that out there just to.
I've absolutely sold out. I've sold out to Christ.
Amen.
I'm a slave of the Lord Jesus.
What you got to say about what we've been saying so far, Alton? By the way, I'll put the link in the chat for anyone else. I see a couple other folks who want to come on. If you disagree, feel free to come on and say why you disagree. There it is. So the link is in the chat. If you want to come on, so say, hey, I disagree with this. And again, I asked you guys a question. I want you to answer my question, which was, what's the problem? What's the solution?
All right, grace and peace, grace and peace. All right, so first of all, how y'all doing? How's everybody doing? Good,
doing
good.
Wonderful.
And I know that you probably pressed for time or whatever, but I came on to give maybe just a little bit of a disagreement.
Okay.
I came on to be the ops right now.
Okay.
Just a little bit. Well, I think that the title, and I came in maybe about 5 minutes after you started. So when you said, when you had the title named "The Worst People in the History of the World," I don't know if you gave like an explanation, as within the first 5 minutes of the video. Yeah.
The reason why why this subsection, this underculture, this thug culture in the black community, predominantly black, is the worst group of people in the history of the world. Worse than Nazis. How can it be worse than Nazis? Well, the Nazis, at least, they didn't kill their own. Worse than Genghis Khan. The Nazis had some set of rules. They wanted to at least build some stuff. These fools don't want to build anything. They don't care about anything. They are literally the same ones that will even kill their own parents, rob them. We didn't see these folks going around raping old women, robbing them and killing them. Here, you got all my money. Take all my money. Just don't kill me. Kill you anyway. Putting on masks as teenagers. These are kids. These are baby kids. Imagine baby Hitler. Hitler wasn't this bad as a baby. These babies say, who did he kill as a kid? I'm not out here carrying the flag or the banner for Hitler, but these kids are horrible. And the fact of the matter is, there are just some people. Now, God can help everybody if he so chooses. But the fact is, he's not. So there are some people that, as rotten as they are, will either always be this rotten or be worse. So that's why I said I think these are the worst group of people ever in the history of the world. Many of them happen to be black.
Yeah, and one of the pushbacks I want to give to that is that you do have somewhat of a point of which I agree. The black culture, especially here in America, is abysmal. People know that I've spoken out about it plenty of times, which has got me my black card revoked and a lifetime pass to the Coon Club. So so y'all already know where I'm at. But when I talk to different groups of people, especially even those who come from places like Africa, they kind of say it's the same thing, to where in their country, where some of the same things are happening, to where they're scamming their own people, they're killing their own people. There are certain tribal things that are happening within those countries, to where that's why some of those people do leave those countries and they want to come here, to where they don't have those particular problems. So therefore, when people read the title, especially like a person such as myself, and I see where it says the worst people in the history of the world, and it's kind of pointed back to black Americans here in the country, I think that it could kind of be pretty subjective, because
Who do you think is worse?
Some of those,
Who do you think is worse?
Worse than what? Worse than black American people in
No. We're not talking about black Americans. No.
Right.
I'm talking about the people who are black, but they're not us. What they like to say that song? They're not like us. I ain't talking about us. I'm talking about these folks that look like us, who have robbed our melanin and given us this horrible name. Those people. I'm talking about these folks that are on trial or about to be on trial, who shooting at somebody, who they're lucky if they go to jail, because if not, they'll be killed. These folks, the scourge of the community, these people, who do you think is worse than them in the history of mankind? People before the
Well,
flood?
you know, like you said what now?
The
You said
people before the flood?
Well, here's the thing, you know, just like I said, you know, that could be, you know, pretty subjective because, you know, I've talked to other people from other countries, and they're just like, it's it's a lot worse in their countries with their own people, and they basically make some of the same claims as well. And it's like I can't really say that when it comes to those here in America, you know, those you know the crash outs and the YNs and all of them in the black neighborhood. I can't say that they are the worst people in the history of the world because I mean, even when I look at some of the things happening, even like in Haiti, you know what I'm saying? Like I've been keeping up with some of the stuff happening in Haiti, and they got like for instance, prime example. I was watching this video where there was these kids that were about 12, 13 years old because Haiti's just totally unstable right now, and this lady was telling a story about how these kids was like 12, 13 years old and how they went into her house and how they assaulted her and they killed her husband and they assaulted her young daughter and all of that stuff. You see what I'm saying? So if we watch some of those videos and some of those testimonies from those people over there, the people in Haiti can basically say the same thing, that these are the worst people in the world because that's what they're around. But for us to be able to make that claim, I'm just saying that it's pretty subjective as well.
Here's why I think that these people over here got them beat. We don't have an excuse over here, do we? What do we have they don't have over in Haiti? How about running water in some cases, electricity? We've got an infrastructure, a system. We've got schools. We've got a lot of things that they are literally killing for. We've got money. We've got all the advantages. To be in this, you know what makes Satan even worse than what he really is? What's so bad about him? You literally got to be in the presence of God, and you rebelled. Now, these kids weren't in the presence of God, but they were in the presence of Sony and Apple and Intel and Jordans, well, everything. And oh, by the way, when they made a mistake, when they messed up, they had someone right there to write an excuse for them. There was no account. They didn't get in trouble. These are far worse, because look what happens when people from Haiti come here. Go ahead, April.
Okay, I have not seen the thumbnail, Corey. I had no idea that was the title of this darn live stream. Okay, that's a pretty wild claim.
Mm-hmm.
I hear your point, and I'm in probably 99.1% agreement with you.
Mm-hmm.
But I also see what Alton is saying, because let me tell you something. These little thug thizzle Taquashons from Chicago, they cannot hold their own with some of these thugs down in Brazil and in parts of South America. Oh, dumb little kids are rough. They will kill you and tell God you died.
Like, but why? What's their issue?
They have different issues than we do. Theirs is probably more driven by culture in a different sense. It's a poverty situation. It's a poverty that we can't wrap our minds around. Like, our kids here in America, they don't know that kind of poverty. I understand what you're saying, because you're saying Americans are so privileged that even the bottom of the barrel of us are doing 10 times better than other individuals in other parts of the world. So is that why you're saying that the Black American thug is the worst of the worst? Is that, I'm just trying to understand. I didn't even know that was a topic of the live stream. I just clicked the link.
Yeah, I think when you compare the reasons why, let me give you an example. In the Bible talks about, now this is Old Testament, but if a person robs or does something, commits a crime, right, but it was to feed his family, the penalty is different than the person who does it just because. Here we got kids who have no excuse, no reason whatsoever to do what they do, just other than because.
Right.
It'd be one thing if they were in. First of all, look at who we're comparing them to, though. The worst of the worst in other countries. And most of these people who are in these other countries, most of them are older.
Right.
But look at it. I'm talking about, look at our kids. Look at how they do themselves. Look at how they disrespect their mothers and their fathers. how they'll turn on each other at the drop of a dime. There's name the level of loyalty that they have. At least these folks, at least in these gangs in other countries, they are at least loyal to those gangs. These kids here, they ain't loyal to the gang at all.
Right, right.
Let the cops pull up in a second. They're telling. That's how they all get in jail, because someone told. These kids are, and again, I'm not talking about black Americans. Let me be clear. I'm not, and I know you guys don't think that, but somebody else might hear this. I'm not talking about blacks in America. I'm talking about the worst, this subculture of people who have no regard for anything, barely even themselves, not even for their own mother, for their own cousins. They will literally sell out their family just for something else, just for some more likes on YouTube. They'll shoot somebody. Hey, watch this. And so at least some, even though it's a stupid purpose, some of these folks in Haiti and in other parts of South America, they feel like they've got a reason. Not these kids. They'll tell you, I don't give a blank.
Right. I could see that argument, because down in South America, a lot of these kids are, it's survival in terms of they're trying to protect themselves from the cartel. So it's like either I kill or be killed. Whereas here in America, we don't have the same types of influences. And just for clarity, Corey, you called me and explained briefly what we were talking about. But you just sent me the link. I'm sorry, I didn't have time to click on the thumbnail and look at the description. But I was invited to add something valuable to the discussion. So that's what I'm doing. I don't understand why people be in the comments talk about, well, check the thumbnail or check the description next time. I'm like, he just called me like 5 minutes ago.
I just called her. Let me address this. Somebody, Corey, please stop, please, and listen to what you're saying about God's children. They're not God's children. Stop saying that everybody that walks around, you know who are God's children? Those that are led by the Spirit. These are not. Now, maybe they will one day, but don't think though that. Let me just tell you how I move, and I stand by this. If you are a murderer, a rapist, a thief, a liar, whatever it is, own it. If you're a monster, own it. You could that way you can get some help. That way you can grow from it. But if we're going to deny it, then nothing will change. So we call these little kids angels, or they're God's children, and they're just babies. Okay, until one of them has a gun pointed at your face or doing something to your child, now what? So no, don't do that. And I asked this question before, I'll ask it again. This is because all of them, be they 5 years old, be they 15, be they 25, 85, they are a soul. That's a person in the eyes of God. What is God going to do with all of these souls? Is he bringing all of them to heaven? Or is some of them, a majority of them, going to be punished forever in hell? What I'm saying to them pales in comparison to what he's going to say and do. And so some of these people are literally going to hell. And so I asked the question before, and it sounds weird. It sounds crazy, almost even heartless. If I were to say, what would you do if you were to meet, let's say, baby Hitler? You got a chance to meet baby Hitler or baby Osama. What are you doing with him? Knowing what you know, what are you going to do? Well, it's a baby. Okay, so now let's say you're in the military, and you're a sniper, and you are protecting your buddies, and you see a child with the suicide vest on coming your way. What do you do now? Now you got to take the kid out, don't you? My point is, what we have now, we got a bunch of kids walking around our neighborhoods with suicide vests on, and they're doing far more damage.
And here's the thing too, and this is where I got to push back a little bit as well. And I listen, I totally agree with what you're saying about, the culture and, these kids that's running around here, they just wilding out. For instance, with my last job, I dealt with, I'm still in property management, but we dealt with affordable housing, like low income apartments. I'm talking about my company. What we did was that they bought properties that were like dilapidated, run down. I'm talking about the city coming out there saying that y'all don't get this right, we shutting this place down. Mm-hmm. So my company will go out, take loans from, get these government grants and loans, and put millions of dollars back into these properties and bring them up. So that area that you showed in Indianapolis, that was actually right around the corner from one of the properties that we managed there in Indianapolis. Now, this property, it was bad. All right, this property was so bad, and Corey could probably, you probably know what this area is. It's like what is it? Washington Post Drive or something like that, or Washington
Post Road,
Post.
40.
Yep,
That area was
yeah, over
42nd and
there.
Post.
And then you got what is it? East Washington on the east side of Indianapolis.
Washington goes east and west.
Yeah, but it's like on the east side of of Indianapolis. But anyway, when we first bought the property, we had hired a security guy because there was guys walking around with guns, and we had a security guy. He was armed security. A week after we bought the property, no lie, there was a shootout at the between two of the buildings. One was on one side of the property, the other was on the other side. And the guys was using the guy's car as a shield, shooting at each other. And the guy quit immediately. I've actually had to work on that property because I had to go in and make sure all of the maintenance stuff was getting done, because we had people who would come out, contractors who would just charge us stuff, not do the work. So I had to actually get out there and make sure that the work was done, and then kind of follow people to make sure everything was going smoothly. And I would go to some of these apartments, and I'm talking about people just living. I mean, just the apartments will run down. People will just ask for just simple stuff like, "Man, can you just please have somebody to come unclog my toilet? It's been backed up for like, for like a month and a half." I'll get out there, I'll clog the toilet. I say, "Hey, let me go ahead and fix this and fix that." And I'll say, "Hey, what's going on with that stove?" "Well, the stove ain't work. There's only one eye that's working." "All right, let me go get you another stove." And I would do stuff like that. Some of these people would be so grateful. I remember I was having a conversation with a guy. He was telling me some stuff about his apartment. The man got a gun right there in his hoodie pocket. And I tell you no lie, I've talked to some of these people who are having bad days, and just asking to pray with them. I mean, you could just see people's faces just light up and their whole demeanor change. I'm talking about these guys are like thugs, and these are like, the typical, baby mamas, the ones who's like, in the hood twerking it up. And you could just see them just going through so much, and just me having short conversations with them and then asking to pray with them. I mean, just change these whole people's lives. And I don't want to take too much longer, because I know you got some other people coming on. But one of the questions that I think that we have to ask ourselves, and this is what I've kind of been grappling with, is that, yeah, we could talk about all of the trash and all of the mess that's in the Black community. We could talk about all of the preachers that's in those communities that's fleecing the people and not doing anything. But this is where I've been struggling, and I don't want this to be anybody else's burden, but I want to know, how can I get back into some of those communities and fill that void? You know what I'm saying? And this is where I've been trying to brainstorm to try to figure that out, especially starting here in Atlanta, because I feel like that, the church has been driven out of the Black community. And in order to fill that void, now that's why we got all of the crime and all of the issues that we have. But I don't think that there's been people that's been willing to go back into those communities and try to build them up. And I think that there are a lot of people who are there who are really, really receptive to the gospel, but there's not too many people who are willing to go in there and actually do the work.
Let me say this also, because I think people didn't hear what I said earlier, and it's possible because folks may have come on later. When I say the worst society ever, I start off by saying that anybody can be redeemed. And so I've dealt, and I can promise you this, and no one is going to be able to convince me otherwise. You have not seen the worst that I've seen. Nobody in this chat has, unless you've been where I've been. I'm telling you, I've seen guys that sleep with knives, that when they get upset, they're going to go to killing you. They got razor blades in their body. They got a hit inside their mouth so they can pull it out and cut somebody. That's how they live. Throwing hot baby oil or cheese in the microwave on somebody's face because the guy was snoring too loud and watch his skin peeling off his face. Or just, you know what, the dude's new. I got a few minutes before chow time. Let me go over here and rape this dude. Yeah, I've been around that. So what do? Well, all you can do is all you can do. And that is give them the gospel. But do not be, don't get it twisted, as they say. Everybody that hears the gospel isn't coming, but you try. You do your very best. But at the same time, the only way that you and I can be saved, the only way that you and I can be saved is the only way that a person can be healed of their sickness, their physical sickness. The only way they can get out of debt. The only way they can fix any other problem. That is to accept that there is a problem. If I'm going to ignore, I'm not saying you guys are saying that, but if I'm going to ignore there's a problem and gloss over it and say, hey, it ain't that big a deal or whatever, or not as bad. No, it's bad. It's dire. It's horrible. Listen, have any of y'all ever had somebody, some maintenance guy come and tell you, hey, is this bad? He said, nah, he's just trying to sell me something. And you think, oh, okay. And then next thing you know, hey, you know, he was right. This is a situation we find ourselves in. It's dire out there. It is when you see kids holding these assault rifles in broad daylight, walking down the street, shooting it out on the highway or in public. Yeah, that's bad. No fear of the law, and they have no reason to be that. So yeah, it's bad. But can they be safe? Sure, if someone gets to them. That's why I showed the story of that little picture of the boy whose uncle, the police officer, is getting in his face. That's what's required. But you can't go up to them and say, yeah, it's okay. I know you had it rough. No, you better deal with them where they are. Brother Hunter, let me go ahead and bring you in. I just knew that at some point in time you was going to show up. Here's your word for the day, ladies and gentlemen, milieu. This is 400's milieu. This is his wheelhouse. And so go ahead and give it to me, brother. Tell me where, now you got yourself muted though. You got to unmute yourself. Still muted.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Corey. I'm going to go ahead and back out.
Okay, Alton. Yeah, I can hear you, Hunter. I can hear you.
All right. How you doing, Corey? Hi, April.
Doing good.
Hey, how are you?
Yep. I agree with a lot of the assessment of the African American community in general. I think it's a mistake to say that the history of a people, no matter what people group, is irrelevant in their current situation or state of being. Okay, I think that's a bit dismissive. Speaking of the Black African Americans community, I have a theory. I believe that in the 1950s, well, prior to the 1950s, let's just start from your favorite words, from slavery time, all the way up
He
through
said my favorite.
all the way up through emancipation,
Mm-hmm.
through the Jim Crow era and such. There was a time through all of that Black people stuck together. African American people stuck together. It was out of a necessity. Okay? It was just like a man had value, a woman had value, the children had value, and we embraced that. Now, after and I want to make a statement about the culture. We talk about the worst people, the worst culture, but I haven't heard anybody say why. And I have a theory.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that dynamic that I explained about the slavery through, antebellum, Jim Crow, and all of that, there was definitely a need for families to stay together. We had a visceral need. So in the 1950s, when they started rolling out welfare, there's a partial rollout of welfare going over decades. So that rollout actually, in my opinion, started expanding in the mid 60s. And in the mid 60s, if you look at the data, you will see that about 80 or 90% prior to the 60s and the 50s, there was a presence of a dominant male figure in the home or a father. After the 60s and the expansion of the welfare system, where they prohibited a man from being in the house, and I think it also not only prohibited them, but it also put forth a stress on the relationships. This is not something that is just easily proven, not even among sociologists and stuff. I'm not a sociologist, and Corey, I know you're not. But But that caused the breakdown, in my opinion, of the African American family structure. The mother or the woman of the home would then have money in her hand, and she would look at the man. If the man's not making the same amount, or
So
they're
let me
having
ask you this to kind
disagreement,
of move you along. So let's say we grant that we got to figure out why we got here, and now we know all the reasons why. We know all the historical reasons behind Jim Crow, and as it pertained to redlining, and when there was overt systemic racism. Let's say everybody black knows that. Now what?
Okay. Well, it goes back to the question about why is the culture the way it is. And the culture is the way it is, in my estimation, is because, first of all, you talk about people from Nigeria or Congo or anybody from the African continent or immigrants from other European countries or wherever they're coming from. All of those people groups have a different dynamic than the African American people group. Now, I want to explain. I am not trying to make excuses. Reasons are not excuses. Okay? I don't act like that. I carry myself with respect and dignity and pride. I haven't always, but through Christ, I've come to know myself and who I am. So these people and even other cultures who are not Christian, they don't act like this. So what's the issue? The issue is that African Americans were robbed of a cultural self-identity. Yes. Yes.
What do you mean by that, April?
Well, at first I was going to push back, but I actually agree, but probably in a different way. When he says Black Americans were robbed of a cultural identity, we used to have one until the civil rights movement told us that we needed to integrate and sit next to white people so that we could feel better about ourselves, right? Like when we had an identity, even if, not that I would want to dismiss the role of faith, family, and religion, but during that civil rights period, the introduction of the civil rights and the welfare state did something that slavery and Jim Crow and the KKK could never do, which was snatch our self-respect and the ability to not care or worry about what other people think about us, but to now for us to use white people as this standard to be equal to, as if we were somehow inferior or less than. And the moment you keep indoctrinating a people group that you need to sit on their buses and go to their schools, and they're like, wait a minute, our schools are fine. We got our own buses. We got our own cab services. We got our own insurance companies, our own butcher shops. Like we had our own everything. But the moment you indoctrinate them to believe that they need to be equal, and then to force, like, why would you force a people group to integrate with another people group that's telling you, I hate you, I don't like you, I don't want you eating where we eat, I don't want you sitting where we sit? Only a stalker would force themselves to be in a space where they're not wanted.
Well,
and
first
when
of all,
we allow the worldview of those civil rights workers to make us believe that we were inferior, when we were educating our own in our own institutions, our families were intact. All of these things happen that cause this warped sense of identity to now we're like, yeah, like I said, we've always been poor. Poverty never made Black people want to go and kill other people. We just did not do that. I mean, it just wasn't, like I said, the welfare state and the civil rights operation of the 1960s did what the KKK, Jim Crow, and slavery never could.
Which was what? Give us an excuse?
The breakdown of the family, pitting the woman against the man, indoctrinating us through the K through 12 system. Like when we were educating our own, we didn't come out as trained Marxists. We didn't believe we were victims. We never looked. Black Americans were some of the most patriotic people you would have ever met. They loved being a part of this country. But there came a point where our worldview started to shift where the K through 12 system was indoctrinating us, turning us into little, basically trained little Marxists. And now we all come out victims. We're the oppressive system. We got microaggressions, and it's not my fault. And I need DEI. Like all of these things that are now, I believe, a snowball byproduct effect of what happened during that segment or period of time. And I can't even say it was slavery because none of us have ever been a slave. We've never picked cotton. And even one generation removed from slavery, we were doing better. I think it's useful for us to go back in time and do an autopsy to be like, where did we lose our way? And who? And people don't like when I do this because they want to hold these civil rights heroes up as these beacons of light, like they were heroes. And I say, okay, if that's your hero, look at the results. The results are telling you that something is wrong.
You know what never happened is that coming out of slavery. Now you started seeing more and more of it becoming more prevalent during the civil rights movement, where they did a lot of looking back and then offering up reasons why. As April said, this victimhood mentality, because someone is there, because someone figured out that I could profit off of their victimhood.
Yep.
It's not a victimhood if a child is SA and then they grow up.
Well, hold on, whoa. That's not what we're talking about. That's not what we're talking about.
There are issues that drag along through.
But wait a minute, Hunter. There's no kid in America today that was assaulted because of slavery. There's nobody. Go find some.
Let me do it once removed. The word that was SA. She has a kid, and then she abuses the kid and teaches.
Has nothing to do with slavery, though.
Has nothing to do with slavery.
Has nothing to do with even being black. None of that. No.
So listen, let me posit this.
Okay.
Not having a cultural self-identity. Once we were held together by oppression, right? Bound together. Then freedoms and liberties and all of these different kinds of feminism movements and all this stuff came about, which I think was bad for us. Okay. It stopped fathers from protecting daughters, and daughters now can I'm in charge of my own self and my own body. You used to have to come and ask permission to date.
Hold on. I gotta ask you a question. Are you saying a lack of cultural identity caused this guy to go impregnate 4 women, or to sell some drugs, or to shoot up a house?
Well, that is sort of a microscopic view. I'm trying to look at the broad picture of it, Corey. I'm just saying this. I believe that African Americans have a cultural identity that focuses around oppression or racism. That's why you see so many galvanized and overwhelming responses when there's a racial issue or component involved.
Yeah, but no galvanization when an actual issue, when a black kid is killed by somebody else black. We don't care.
Yes.
We don't care.
Yes, that is correct. That is correct, because what is our base culture? It's Americanism. It's individualism and capitalism. That is what we have as a people group that we identify with, other than oppression. That's why you see, I call it stack my paper high, me, myself, and I. Okay? That's why
how would you fix it? How would you fix this then?
Well, that's the thing. I
History lessons?
I haven't heard any real solution. No, it's not a history lesson. How do you replace?
Well, if you say the problem is we don't have a good grasp of history, well then obviously the solution.
You don't have a good grasp of history. That's an external thing that you can put into your mind. I'm talking about it, Corey. If I'm Irish and I say I don't wake up and go, I'm Irish today. But I'll tell you what, if there are 2 Irish people and another guy from England, and they never met, they get on a plane, they go to a conference, and they go into the Starbucks, and one of the Irish guys goes into the bathroom, right? And then he comes back, and the Irish and English guy are fighting for their lives. Oh, really, fighting for their lives. And the English guy turns and says, hey, help me, this guy is crazy. Help me, he just went crazy. And the Irish guy says the exact same thing, but how an Irish person can identify and say it to another Irish person, all things being equal, who do you think that other Irish person is going to help?
What, the Irish person?
the one that they identify with.
Okay, so the black person helps the other black person against the white person, and then a week later, that black person goes and kills that same black person. Isn't that what's happening?
I'm talking about the absence of
Let me tell you what I know. Let me tell you what I know, and I can't tell you how many times I did this. Having these conversations with the guys who are actually the killers, who were the rapists, who were the traffickers, who were the drug dealers, who were the drug users, who were the white collar criminals, all of those guys, they all had the same thing. They didn't think anything about anybody else, and history or their cultural identity was not an issue. As a matter of fact, they could probably tell you just as much as anybody else. Hey, we kings and queens and yada, yada, yada. But they didn't pick up the bag to sell because of that. They picked it up because they were not told right from wrong, and there was no discipline in it. There was no consequences. So they found themselves in a place where it was okay. They thought they can get away with doing it. And no one held them accountable. But if we go back to when we held folks accountable, we wouldn't have this issue. When you take a kid, this kid that robbed somebody, you know what you give him? You give him a stiff penalty.
Corey, we had 3-strike rule, locking people away for life. That didn't help. It didn't change the culture. It didn't change the innate problem.
Since prison reform has happened, what's happened with the crime rate?
I haven't looked.
It's gone up. It's gone up. Let me just tell you something. Maybe y'all want to hear this. And I'm about helping as many people as possible if they are going to want to be helped. There's some folks they're not going to want to be helped. There's some folks who, and guess what you don't do? You don't spend your time trying to make them become something they're not. So let's say I showed some of the clips. Some of these kids have been in trouble before. The boy that just shot up the rapper and his 5-year-old daughter, he was let out on bond because he had just got through sexually assaulting a woman a year or so ago. These guys who've been locked up, this is why these folks are talking about our little bond or our bail reform. And so some of these folks who are committing crimes are getting out and committing them again. One guy who killed an 18-year-old kid that was in the video had been out on bond 25 times. How in the world is that possible? Here's why. Because some folks say, you know what, let's just try to understand them. No, once you do wrong, that's why, let me put it back on the screen what the Bible says. This is the Bible about a delayed sentence. Because the sentence against an evil deed is not executed quickly, I'm sorry, I didn't put it on the screen. It's not executed quickly. Therefore, the hearts of the sons of men among them are given fully to do evil. So what has to happen is, this is what God does. God disciplines his children and even those who are not. And so we have a lack of discipline in our community. And so this is the byproduct. Women will wear what they want to wear. Guys will do what they want to do and thumb their nose at authority. And then we say, yeah, but what about how we got there? At some point in time, I don't care anymore how we got there. I know we're right here, right now. I'll go back and look at the history of how this house how this house became flooded after I get all the water out. That's the problem. We got too many folks that want to have a conference and a meeting about the past. I can promise you, nobody in prison there today did their crime thinking about their culture or history. Not one. Now, while they're there, they might think about it and take a class, but that ain't how it's working now. That's just a fact. And so here's what you do. You give them as much of the Lord as possible. You be a witness before them. But guess what? There are some vile people who don't care. And guess what you ought to do with them? Keep them as far away from people as you possibly can. Trust me, there's some people that you don't ever want to see out.
So it sounds like you're saying lawlessness abounds, and the as Romans 14 would affirm that we need something to restrain the evildoer and the lawlessness that's rampant in the land. And coming up with solutions like restorative justice is not the answer, right? Restorative justice is justice. It's actually the most unloving thing you can do. It sounds like what you're saying, Corey, is that we need to enact law and order again and implement stiff penalties for those who are terrorizing the culture and society with wicked deeds. So, letting people out on bond who are repeat offenders is not restraining the lawless and then protecting the innocent and the vulnerable. I would agree with that. I don't think it's fruitful to have a discussion about slavery and Jim Crow and have those types of discussions But as it relates to the moral rot and the cultural rot and that subculture that you talk about, I don't think it's fruitful to do that. I think we can have a conversation about restoring the family. And that's an uphill battle because the one arm of this conversation that is abdicating their responsibility is in the pulpit. We have a proliferation of preachers who are not preaching the whole counsel of God. The churches are full of women. The men in charge are just preaching to their pain and not holding them accountable. And so then the men are fleeing, right? So like everything is just out of order. I think individuals can preach the gospel in their context where the Lord opens up doors to do so. But by and large, men, if you have a wife, you shepherd your family. We're raising 4 arrows here in this home, and we don't have these kinds of problems because my sons see an example of what a man is supposed to be, and so therefore they are emulating that, and they know the element in the culture to stay away from, as Corey would say.
Yeah. Let me do this. Let me go ahead and unmute everyone else. Dom, let me also, where is Dupree at? Where's Dupree? What happened to Dupree? Dupree keeps going in and out and then says, bring me on. So let me also hold you off for a second. Danae, I'll bring you on as well. Who's unmuted? Someone is still unmuted. Let's see. Carlos, put your face in the screen. There you go. So who else wants to chime in?
Oh, I do.
Go ahead.
I think, Brother Corey, I think sort of like what Sister April just said, like it's a multifaceted issue. I think we have to have a clear understanding of the roles of every institution. And what I mean by that in particular, that you take the church primary goal is to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ, and it's gotten away from that. So much so that in many instances, as we've seen over the last couple of years, you really can't see the difference between, decipher the difference between the church and the world. That's one. The other issue that wasn't brought up was the weaponization of hip hop culture. We all know that when we listen to certain things get in our ear gates, and they directly affect our spirit. And I say that because, if I can use the word, it's been like a proliferation of, I want to say, N-word culture. And that goes back to the 1980s when the prison industrial complex got in bed with a lot of the record, industry and execs, and said, hey, look, what they knew the secret. They knew if we can get in bed with them, we can create basically this free labor source, and we can change the mind. Because see, at the end of the day, you can have the father in the home all day long. I know a lot of people that have fathers in their home, but they want to act like, they want to act like thugs. They want to act like YNs. Why? Because if you're sitting up there listening to music and you have a culture that originally was supposed to be an urban outcry of the youth, now being weaponized against you. Now, like, I grew up listening to, let's say, like Nas and people like that. Not saying it was any good, right? But it's a far cry from the stuff that you have out now, where it's literally telling people kill, 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 and you sit like I've literally seen kids who are good kids, grew up in the suburbs, and they can have their father in the home all day long, but if 8 hours out the day you're literally meditating on filthiness and telling you to be wicked, telling you to be vile, telling you how to look at women, like even me when I grew up. Even me, and the Holy Spirit had to get me out of it. And the Holy Spirit literally, when my parents said, you don't need to really listen to that music, it informed the way that I looked at women. So now you listen to Sir Mix a lot. I like big butts and I cannot lie. So now you're looking at a woman just for that aspect. You're objectifying this woman. You're not looking at her as a person that you can love. Also, going on with culture, part of that culture said that the way you come up is by disrespecting one another. That's the foundation. We call it dissing, diss tracks. I remember the summer of about 90, 97, whatever, when Nas came out with the diss track against Jay-Z. Oh my God. People were just flocking to it because they literally, the Bible said he hates feet that run to evil and hands that shed his blood. And so people were literally getting their antsies off on seeing two black men literally go at each other. And so now we have a culture that says like the way that you come up is by disrespecting another man that looks like you. And we've embraced that. And the church does not. You have a few people that talk about it, your G. Craig Lewis's, your Pastor Gary Price's, those people like that. But by and large, you don't have the church talking about that because they're too busy. Oh, they not like us. You know how many people I saw all that mess? I'm like, dude, you're supposed to be teaching holiness and well, we gotta do what we gotta do to get over the kids. The Holy Spirit don't need your help. You just need to be able to preach holiness and righteousness. And that's why I said it's a multifaceted problem because, yes, fathers do need to be in the home. Yes, but even if the fathers are in the home, if you have this kid who grows up, he goes to this school and he finds out, I'm not cool because I don't listen to this type of music. I don't subscribe to this certain culture. Literally, good is evil and evil is good. So, like, I remember I was a virgin.
Go dead. Let me get my
I got teased about that mercilessly. Oh man, you're a virgin, man. You must be gay. You must be blah blah blah. Because the culture said that you're a boy and you're supposed to be out here banging all these different women. That's one point. The other point, the culture has taught us specifically as black men to not embrace one another. I have my buddy, my producer partner, Rick. He was talking about he grew up in Monterey, California, and we were just comparing notes on how he grew up in Cali as opposed to how I grew up in Arkansas. And we had the same story. We were kids, we were happy-go-lucky, we liked to have fun, we smiled. You know how many people used to talk about me for smiling? Oh, you must be gay. What's wrong with you? You know how many problems I had with other black men who didn't like me or didn't like my buddy? Not because we did anything, because the Bible says people will be despisers of those that are good. So it goes back to scripture context. And so now you don't like this brother because he is walking around with joy in his heart. You don't have things going on in your heart. So now, as a kid, I felt like, well, man, maybe I need to be rougher. Maybe I need to be tougher to come back around. And then when my grandfather died, then I found that a lot of my I would say I was a former trainer. I was still a relatively good kid, but a lot of things went by the wayside. So I think I say that all to say this: it's a multifaceted issue. It's an issue with culture. People have to have clear, defined roles of knowing what the church is supposed to do and get back to that. The Bible says like this, and this is really the solution. He said, "If my people are called by my name, would humble themselves and pray." And seek my face. But here's the key part that a lot of people forget to say: and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and forgive their sins and heal their land. Why? People don't want to turn because they lovers of pleasures rather than lovers of God. See, all this stuff is in the word. They have a form of godliness, but deny the power thereof. A lot of these, when I was 16 years old, I literally had a preacher. I was having an issue, and you have the youthful lust and things go on, and I was a virgin, and I literally went to this preacher to ask him a question, and I said, well, these other kids are having sex, and you come to find out a lot of them were probably lying anyway to be cool, but I said, am I supposed to do this certain acts with a woman? And he told me, I don't want to be too graphic, but he told me, he said, no, it's nothing wrong. There's nothing wrong with messing with a girl's boobs. There's no sin in that.
Go.
There's no sin in that. He said, yeah, you can do all that. It's not, yeah, long as you're not having sex. So think about it as a kid, that plants seeds in you. So then I go to college, go off to Grambling State, shout out to Graham.
Let me ask you a question, Dom.
Yes, sir.
Where was your father?
That's the thing. My father was not in my life. He was not in my life. And it's funny.
Who instilled the right thing in you?
It was my grandpa, but that was the only father I knew.
Okay.
I grew up with my grandparents actually adopted me. And so up until age 10, my grandpa raised me. So I saw him going into church. He was a deacon. I was into the word of God, things of that nature. But he was a father I had. But I think here's the other issue I wanted to bring up. Now looking back on it, I think I had a lot of issues that should have been addressed at work, because when he died when I was 10 years old, I fell into a depression. Now I know it's depression.
So
because go ahead.
No, I guess my point is though, none of what you said points back to, and this is what I was throwing on Hunter. None of what you said points back to a misunderstanding or not having a full grasp of history and culture. I'm gonna come back to you, Hunter. Hold on. Let me get Carlos and Dupree and see if I know they want to add to Dupree. I don't know what's going on with your connection. You keep coming in and out, but go ahead and chime in.
You said me.
Well, I'm just saying. Oh, let him go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Go ahead, Dupree.
Oh, no, go ahead. Let Hunter.
Dupree, go ahead, man, for your stuff, for your camera fall off.
You don't count my connection. No, I want to say you
ball head. Gotta choose a ball head.
They said, "What the problem?"
Go ahead, Dupree.
When I was in my generation, Generation X, my feet ran to steal, kill, and destroy. I did that. I loved it. It empowered us to go and do it. It's like the devil was in our neighborhood. Like, we got stuff accomplished by people who would just come by and drop off, buy guns. We could buy guns at $100 a pop, Glocks and everything else. They was just feeding this to us. Like, we could go get it. The spirit of anger was on us. And we was just upset and was getting money. So we had to defend our block from other people getting it. So the devil was like prevalent in the hood. The churches didn't come into the hood. Cause we smelled wolves. When they came, we were like, no, you smell, you after the money, buddy. You smell like a wolf. Get up out of here. You didn't come. They didn't come preaching. I'm glad there were some soldiers that did come. They did come and gave me the good news. Oh, thank you, Jesus, for that faithful servant. That wasn't scared to come down into the hood and talk to me because I'm sitting there with a pistol in my hand. He wasn't scared to talk to me because people surrounded me and I had this big ooh about me. But thank you for that faithful servant that came down there and said, look, man, there's a way. He's the truth of life. I'm like, yeah, whatever. Nobody want to hear that, bro. We're trying to get money over here. But I thank God for somebody did come to that neighborhood and plant a seed. The pastors don't come down there. They come down there, they come fancy on us. They look like one of us. They look like a drug dealer killer. And they come down there flashy and they don't say nothing about God. They're like, well, you need to go to church and do this.
Okay, so now let me ask you this, because I want to be real efficient with our time.
All right.
I know I didn't see all your comments, but it seems like you were chomping at the bit. There was something that maybe that I said that you had disagreed with.
You said, you threw away that culture, bro. You threw away them youth. You threw them away, and I tell you what, I was one of them youth, man. And I thank God that somebody came and gave me that good news. I still thank the God for that faithful servant that came to me that one day, man, that planted that seed. Because I was a product of that environment. I knew what it was. I shouldn't be here right now. I took a man's life.
Hold on. How do you figure I threw him away?
You said they ain't no good.
I said what I said from the very beginning.
Okay.
I said God can redeem whomever.
Yeah, yes, sir.
He's not going to redeem everybody. So what you do is you give the gospel, you live your life. All you can do is all you can do. But also you better recognize that there must be an element of confrontation, meaning with the truth, and discipline. Punishment.
Let me give the scripture.
Now, I'm not throwing anybody away. I'm giving you the facts. What are the facts on the streets? most of the people in your neighborhood are not going to come around. Am I right? Most people aren't.
The person that came from that lifestyle was under me. He came around. Whoever
I didn't say nobody. Hold on. I didn't say nobody. I didn't say nobody. I said most. There's going to be, I came from that lifestyle. There's going to be some people who are going to come from the bottom. My point is, though, those that refuse to, you better deal with it. That's my point. Go ahead, Carlos.
Yeah, I don't have too much time, but everybody's talking about culture and this and this and that. But I think the Bible is real plain, you know. After Joseph died, there rose a generation that didn't know nothing about Joseph. And after Joshua died, there rose a generation that didn't
That's a
know
good one.
about Yahweh.
That's a good one.
And
Yeah.
it's the same thing. There's a generation now that don't know nothing about the past because it's snowballed. You know, babies start having babies, and those babies grow up being raised by babies, and they have babies. They
That's a
don't know
good one.
anything about work ethic. It was a generation that rose up. And let's be frank, some people don't want no part of God. They just don't.
Because then nobody telling them nothing about God.
Yeah. What about Noah? How
God,
many
10%. Give me some money.
how many years did it take Noah to build the ark? 120.
Mm-hmm.
And only people was he and his family. They didn't want nothing to do with God. I mean, look at Sodom and Gomorrah. How many people came out of Sodom and Gomorrah?
But how many of us going to be Joe? No, we got to go through Sodom and Gomorrah.
No, yeah, but they were there, but they didn't preach the gospel. If they did, they didn't want nothing to do with God. It's about attitudes. God is saving everybody.
So
But
all you can do, as I said, is give them the gospel. As Jesus said, let your light, how you live, let that be what they see. Because I can promise you, if they see it, they'll like it. If they see that there is somebody out there, not all. Someone asked a question, what do I mean by why did I say most? Because the Bible is clear. Most people are not coming to Christ. Most people are not going to do right. That's just a fact. Don't get it confused to think that everyone is. And so what I'm saying is there's a culture of people who are where they are. What's the solution? The solution is, because someone asked a question, what is the solution? The solution is you be the best representation of Christ you could be.
Right.
It's really simple. Jesus is one of the first things we have recorded of him saying, let your life shine. Let the light in you shine so much so that people see your good work. And they'll say, well, doggone it, Dom, what's going on with you? You didn't have a daddy. I didn't have a daddy, or you had a grandfather. I didn't. So what is it about you? And then they get close and they find out there's a Jesus in his life. It doesn't matter what someone used to do or what, because all of us are going to, if we come to Christ, all of us that come to Christ came out of something, came from something, and none of us came to Christ because our daddies or grandfathers, or great grandfathers had anything to do with it. It was because we submitted our heart to him, place our faith in him. And if people see that, here's what happens if you do you in Christ. They'll see you as a good man. Now, I'm gonna go with the assumption that you four gentlemen are good men.
No, don't count me.
I don't listen. What I mean, listen, I don't mean good men in the sense that where he says there's none good. I mean that you, as far as the world's concerned, as far you're like good dude, pretty decent guy. You know what I'm talking. Okay, fine. We know for a fact Dupree ain't. Carlos, you suspect, but Dom and Hunter, good brother. Y'all know y'all know what I mean. But you guys seem like decent guys, right? And so if you got a wife and your kids, what are you doing? You loving them? You taking care of them? People will see your children and they will see your wives. And I can promise you people who don't have that will see that and say, I want that. A single woman will see this married woman and see how she is. Like, I want a single man will see this married man. I want that. Someone with kids, I want my kids like that. And then it becomes contagious. Again, it's not my prescription. This is God's prescription. Do it this way. If you take care of yourself and your family, then you can better take care of your neighbor. And then now you've got two families helping with the neighborhood. Then you got 3 families and then 4 families. Now your church is involved in this. and we don't, and in the middle of this, Hunter, if in the middle of this you want to start talking about what we did historically, fine. You can go back as far back in history as you want to. You can go back to Egypt if you want to.
I'm not talking about anything historical. I am talking about what the effects are today, Corey. I know you're pushing my buttons, man.
I'm trying to, brother.
You're pushing my buttons, man. But look, Dom, you made good points. The hip hop and all those things they pour into us, into our culture, and infect us with. I really truly believe that it doesn't affect all other people groups the same way.
Why not?
It doesn't affect them the same way.
Brother.
All those other people groups have a cultural and ethnic identity that roots.
Okay, well, hold on. Let's go there for a second. Let's drill down for a second. Hold on. I promise you, I'm gonna give you more time. But you said it. Other people groups, so white people or Hispanic people,
Asian, Spanish.
When they go through similar things, they don't have this. They don't. What's the problem again? They don't have the same cultural baggage that we have. That
No, identity.
Okay, fine.
Like I was saying about the meeting with the guys. It's not something you live and go, oh, I wake up and hey, I'm Nigerian or I'm Afghanistani or no, but it's there because that culture, Afghan culture, has certain things that are required by the culture. Nigerian culture has certain things required by that culture that is instilled in you. Not just the family structure, not just the family unit. Not just the dad in the house, but that's there as well, of course. But they have certain ways, certain norms that they all share collectively. African Americans.
So you saying if I know about my cultural identity as a black person, when I'm going through something, thinking about that will make me get good grades and make me.
No, you don't have it. You don't have one.
Who don't have one?
Is what I'm telling you.
Oh, you're saying we don't have a cultural identity?
Yeah, what we have is, as a cultural identity is racism, oppression.
That's our identity?
That's the only thing we come together on. That's the only thing we come together on.
No. That's the only thing that some of you guys come together on. I don't.
Oh my God. Well, even that can't be 100%, Corey. We don't have nothing that's 100%.
Let me tell you what I do. When I go in there and I sit down with my family, you know what I ain't thinking about? I ain't thinking about Kizzy, Chicken George.
That's anecdotal.
No. Here's my point though. When you go to work, when you do what you do, you might understand some of those things, but that's not your motivation. What it is
I'm talking about your history, Corey. I'm talking about how you carry yourself.
How I carry myself, my cultural identity is from Christ.
Right.
That's what does it.
Yes. Right. Yes, for me too. But
well, then what are you talking about? Cultural identity. Our identity, our citizenship is now in this new kingdom. I could care less about black folks, white folks, Hispanic folks, or culture.
They're my ethnic group. I'm talking about the ethnic group. They're in my ethnicity. They're not my people. My people are those who obey and do the will of the Father.
Exactly.
But that ethnic group you're talking about, I belong to. And what I'm trying to express to you is that not having anything besides racism and oppression to keep us consolidated, we are open to whatever comes down the cultural pipe.
So let me ask you a question then, and be honest with me. And Minister Jones, you can chime in too. Let me ask you a question. All y'all a question. People who think like me and people who think like, and I'm not trying to cause, I promise, Hunter, I love you to death. I ain't trying to cause no fight. People who think like me and people who think like you, who tends to be the more successful in our community?
Shots fired.
I don't get that. What do you mean?
People who hold on to cultural identity and things like that in our community, from what I've seen, and I used to be there, are nowhere near as successful as folks who say, you know what, that cultural stuff can be second, third, or tertiary, but having a God-centered cultural identity,
right,
and then taking care of your family, being a man I'm not saying I'm not saying you against that. But my point is, forgetting about being black, but being a man first and foremost, being a husband, father, and taking care of business. Those are the guys. Now, those are the ones that might get labeled as a sellout or what, this or that or what have you. But they tend to do better. Their kids go to school. Their kids don't go to prison.
Because I agree with you on those things, and I'm not talking about ancient history. I'm talking about the effects of the effects of it. Just by if I were in Saudi Arabia and I was Saudi Arabian to a Saudi Arabian father and mother, they would have expectations of me as their son that I need to accomplish.
But is it based on Saudi Arabian culture, history, or that father? Is it that we demand that you succeed? Because guess what? In China,
wouldn't even be there if that culture was not in place.
Well, wait a second. In China, you've got 1 billion people. Half of them are not achievers. Matter of fact, most of them are not achievers. Some are. Those that are achieving because it's competitive, they instill, not because of their culture, but because of family dynamics, say, listen, we got to stay competitive or else we will lose our lot in life. And so the family puts the pressure. That's kind of how it used to be with black folks. You know, black folks, here's our culture.
That's how it used to be with black folks because of oppression.
Huh?
Not because of oppression, not because of our innate culture.
Black folks used to hold ourselves to a certain standard. Even coming out of slavery, out of Reconstruction, out of Jim Crow, we held ourselves to a standard. And so you know what? If Willie Joe's family down the street don't do right, you going to school. You gonna do your work. You gonna take care of that. Irrespective of what other black folks did or didn't do, your culture was your house. This is how we do. I don't know how they do over there, but this is how we do over here. You know exactly that's how you were raised. And so now, though, we're being told, someone came and told us we are a village, which is fine. But guess what? If the village is going to hell, by village, I'm not going with you. My cultural identity is going to always rely in Christ, and it's always going to be that I'm going to uphold a standard. I'm not going to take any mess. I'm not going to give any excuses or offer any. Let me go ahead and do this, though, Hunter. Let me do this. Dom, I need to go ahead because I got some folks waiting to come on. I can't bring them on because I don't have as many slots. But go ahead and give me some last words, and then you too, Dupree, so I can bring up Minister Jones, and then some other folks.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having me on. I was just going to say that's the issue. We're trying to add other things on top of Christ when Christ is good enough. He is the culture. And that's what I had to learn. That's how my father raised me. My grandfather raised me. Grandmother raised me. I knew when I was young I was going to go to college. I knew all those things. That even when I started to veer off, my I guess you could say my religiosity, if you will, informed everything in my life. The Bible says to set your affections on things above. We're so focused on the horizontal that we don't focus on the vertical. And that's the issue. We have to make up in our mind, and that's why I was saying it has to be a clear, defined role earlier. The church is too busy trying to be in bed with the world and trying to do things that the world wants to do as opposed to doing things the way the Holy Spirit wants to do. And that's why we have the issues, I believe, that we have today. So
Amen.
Thank you, my brother.
All right, brother. Thank you for joining, brother. We'll talk with you later. God bless you, brother.
Yes, sir. God bless you.
All righty, Dupree, give me some words so I can go ahead and, by the way, the next time you come on, turn your TV off behind you. It's on now, though, but go ahead and say what you're going to say, brother.
You said the question was, what's the problem, right, with this young generation, right?
Mm-hmm. If you want to address that, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, I just want to answer. I'm gonna answer the two questions. They have no fear. They have no reverence of God. No fear of God. Right? They have no reverence of God because nobody has shown them God. We came up in a generation where there's nobody preaching the word into the neighborhoods. Right?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been invited to church. I'm 50 years old. I've probably been invited to church 5 times in my whole life. That's crazy, right? But the problem is that steal, kill, and destroy. That's Satan. That's what's in our communities and the communities of us when we go out there and do what we do, what I used to do. Hallelujah. And the solution, what is the solution? If you don't mind, if you bring up Matthew 9:37-38, it's the solution.
Did you put an S on Matthews?
9:37.
Said Matthews. Matthew what?
9. 37-38, and that's the acronym for that name right there. The harvest under God in Christ. Thug Inc. The harvest
Okay.
under God's Christ. Hallelujah.
Then he said to his disciples, the harvest is plentiful, but the workers are few. Therefore, beseech the Lord of harvest to send out workers into his harvest.
Amen. That's the solution right there. God bless. Hallelujah.
Let me ask you a question before you go. I got to ask you a question.
Okay.
And tell the truth, shame the devil. You said you've only been invited to church 5 times?
Yeah, man, I can count them on my fingers, yeah.
Is it because they know how you going to act?
Because I don't act. That's the problem.
They know how you going to act when you get there?
You ain't gonna, I'm not falling out. You ain't gonna, I don't act. That's why they
Bye, Dupree. Okay, let me go ahead. I'm sorry, Minister Jones, for keeping you waiting. And let me bring in Jordan as well. And hold on one second. There we go. All righty. All righty. I'm sorry. Go ahead, gentlemen. Whoever wants to go next. Minister Jones, let me hear from you, brother. I'm sorry.
I won't be on long. I just have a quick couple of comments, and I'll let you go. Initially, when I came on, I just had a problem with the thumbnail, and I'll actually I had a problem with the thumbnail because I'll tell you, I find it hard to believe that this generation of young black men are the worst people ever in the world. That was the only problem that I had an issue with. The reason I have an issue with that is because I know for a fact that Netanyahu killed 40,000 women and children in Gaza. So I'm pretty sure that whatever these young black men are doing today, that's not even a thumbnail on the total amount of devastation that has been caused by even our own president.
You think there's an equivalency?
So I'm sure you killed quite a few people.
Let me ask you a question. Let me ask you a question.
And I agree with something that Dom said.
Hold on, let me ask you a question.
When Dom said about everybody's going to the world, but because most of the things that you say, Corey, I agree with you. And the answer to it all is what you said, brother. You just got to give them the gospel. The gospel endures to all generations. We have to give them the gospel. You know, I did a sermon last week where I told all of my believers, all of the people that were in the church, that no matter how much we think we're doing, how much we think that we are affecting the world, that we as believers, we have to do more. We have to do more until everyone has heard the gospel, because that is the cure to every situation that we have in the world today. The word of God is the cure to everything that is going on in the world today. And you are 100% right when you talk about the man, because as you said, the promise was given to the man. The promise was given to Adam. And I truly believe, Corey, that if men, all men, regardless of race, if men were to truly align themselves with the word of God, then the issues of the world would go away. I truly believe that. But I just want you to know that the only thing I had a problem with was the thumbnail. But you guys do good work, man.
Can you hear me?
Thank you for your help.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you a question. You mentioned Netanyahu because of the number of people that were killed, and that's worse. So that would also mean that everyone else that's been in a war, that they also rise to that same level. Now, I don't think that these kids are in a war, at least not one that's been declared. I don't think that we could put them in the same category. Matter of fact, how many people did Israel kill, or did the Amalekites kill, or did the Hittites kill, did the Babylonians kill? I don't. If there's a war, at least the people in the war can say the reason why I'm doing this is because of this reason. It's us against them. These kids on the street, these folks, and it's not just kids. What's their war? Who declared the war? And oh, by the way, haven't they declared war on their own people?
I got the answer for that, Corey. The people on the street, you consider those civilians, right?
Who?
The people that are on the street in America that are being harmed by crime, those are civilians.
Sure, yep.
So are the women and children in Gaza that got bombed.
But why are they being bombed? I don't want to make this an issue about Israel.
They're being bombed as a result of their government.
They're being bombed because Hamas decided to move their military targets in hospitals, in the schools, around the people.
But that is still the government.
Okay.
And at the end of the day, America is notorious for having missions where they sweep in and remove the hostages. If they wanted those people out of the saying is that there's no difference between a civilian. A civilian is a civilian.
It's not
a civilian on the streets of America.
It's not
and
TV,
a civilian
brother.
on the streets of Gaza is a civilian.
Okay. I'll say this, and I'll bring someone else on, but it's not TV where they could just, you know what, we're gonna send SEAL Team 6 in and get those hostages, and everyone will come out unscathed. No, it's not that easy. It's just they have these underground caves, these bunkers, and it's just next to impossible to get to them. And the issue is they've just grown tired of them having. And I'm not taking a side. I think both of these are wicked groups. So I'm not taking a side. But if you're in the middle of a war, don't expect the people that you're in war with to take it easy on you. These kids that we're talking about, these folks we're talking about, there is no war. There's no justification whatsoever. At least someone can say, listen, because when you have a war, citizens or civilians are going to be killed. They're going to be casualties of war. But there is no war here on America except the one they decide they want to go and take part of, some imaginary war. I guess a war to see who can have the most money, get the most women, who can rack up, this and that or whatever, and the most bodies and so forth. If that's their war, fine. Again, I would like for someone to say who in the history of the world is like what we're seeing here. And by the way, I'm not saying that they cannot be redeemed and that they are beyond help. I'm not saying that at all. I've never said that. I am saying, though, we need to recognize who they are, where they are, what they're doing, and then deal with it from that standpoint and not giving them a pass. These people, you have never seen anyone name someone in the history of the world that's doing what they're doing for no reason, not because they're hungry, not to protect their own turf or their own land or anything like that. No, it's not for those reasons. Just cause.
It is. Take the thumbnail down, Corey.
That thumbnail gonna be up. Matter of fact, I might make a worse one.
Yeah, that was the only thing, man. But I appreciate the work that you guys do, man. Thank you, guys. Have a good day. Corey, check out my videos, man. They're on there. Have a good day, brother. May God bless you all.
God bless you too, brother.
Bless you, John.
That thumbnail is, man, I'm gonna make it bigger.
The Canaanites were worse, Corey.
Do what?
The Canaanites were worse.
How so?
Well, they worshipped idols and gods and did human sacrifices. And,
okay, so check with both of them.
Rejected Melchizedek,
Okay, wait a second. Hold on. We can talk this out. What do they do differently? What happened? I didn't do it. Hunter hit something. But that's okay. I am Diamond. And then Jordan, what's going on, brothers? How y'all doing?
Doing well.
Doing well, man. God bless you.
On as well. I think the Rithers was here before me, though.
Thank you, Mr. B. Can y'all hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
I think it's the echo that's what's throwing me off. Okay. So I appreciate everything all y'all said. It's like the gentleman said earlier, it's a multifaceted issue. We can't ignore what happened in the past, but we also can't live in the past. So yes, there was that incentive for women to be single moms back then. I want to say probably, I don't know, y'all probably all in the 50s. So probably what y'all grandparents or so parents were, accepting type of stuff. That was probably around y'all time. So that happened, and it started that single father culture that we have now, which Hunter is against, because that's a good culture. That doesn't produce. Look at the fruit of it now. I'm 30, so I'm the youngest one here, and I think I've experienced a decent amount. I'm slightly removed from that YN era, but I mean, I grew up, during the time with like Waka Flocka and them, Gucci and all those other guys, all that gangster rap, drill. I'm from Chicago, so like we started that drill up here, so it's like I seen it, 30 stumpers, foreigns, and all that type of stuff, and it's like, the way we can move forward, like I'm gonna just skip all past like the bad stuff that happened. The solution, I think, Corey, you touched on it. We have to. Everyone here is 799 people watching right now, plus 4, so it's the 803 people. We all can affect our households by being God-fearing individuals. All the men that are watching can be God-fearing fathers, and by influencing our households, when we go into those parent-teacher conferences, sharing the light of Christ with the teachers, with the grocery store folks and all that other stuff. You feel me? Whoever we interact with, as long as we're able to be a good representative of Christ, a proper steward, one that points people upward, then yeah, Corey, like you were saying, they'd want that. Because right now, don't nobody want to be black. Like you looking at the other races, like they laugh at us. We the bottom of the totem pole. We fighting for scraps. We disappointed. We embarrassing. Looking at our community, we embarrassing. It's like folks can't even have fun at like a cookout or let me not paint with a broad brush, but typically, when summer ain't how it used to be. You know what I mean? Like summer used to be fun as all this violence and whatnot. Folks don't know how to handle each other.
It's frustrating.
So it's gonna take time. Yeah, it's gonna take time. Yeah, it is frustrating, but it's not gonna happen. It took time for it to get messed up. Like that was 3 generations ago when it first started, when we got sold out. So it's gonna take generations for it to get corrected. You also have to keep in mind that we have, like the people that made that song that you played earlier, like Annie Up, that was they like 50 now. So those were, yeah, they 50 now. So those are your peers, bro. You feel me? So it's like they made that in their 30s. So it's like we gotta wait for that to die off. But unless folks repent, same thing with like racism. We're gonna have to wait for racism to die off unless they repent. But
do you?
That stuff is in the little ones.
See, I think this. Y'all, any of y'all watch sports, like mainly basketball, college basketball?
Yeah.
And you'll see these matchups, the number 1 seed versus the number 16 seed and things like that. And we never had a number 1 seed lose to a 16 seed ever until it finally happened. And you know what we're going to do? We're not going to go and look at the scouting reports of these other teams. We're not going to look at how big this player is, how tall he is, his stats. Nope, don't care. Could care less what he does. You know what we're going to do? We're going to focus on our game plan and execute our game plan. I don't want you looking over at their team. I don't want you looking at TV, look at their highlights. Don't do that. Don't worry about stuff that has nothing to do with you. You can't control how tall this boy is. You can't control how much money he's going to make. If he's going to be, you can't control none of those things. You know what you can do? You can control your job. You can do what you're supposed to do, be where you're supposed to be at the right time, make the pass. You're supposed to make the pass, make the cut, make the block, play defense, do those things. And next thing you know, we got a number 1 seed being upset by number 16 seed. All you can do is all you can do. And let's just be honest, all you can do can be pretty important, can be pretty amazing, can be pretty significant. So what that somebody white somewhere, I'm not saying you, Jordan, but somebody white somewhere don't like you. Okay, and what? Somebody black don't like you. It's like my daddy said, quit worrying about the white man. As he told me, it's always going to be some that's also ain't going to like you. He going to be your biggest problem, but your biggest issue is going to always be you. If you think you got other obstacles that are there that ain't there, because can you imagine being worried about something or somebody that ain't even thinking about you? That's part of our problem. Just go do what you got to do. And so if you go marry this bride, not have 7 kids by 4 women, have a job, pay your bills, take care of your credit, make sure your kids are clean and that they're obedient and things like that, they're going to school, you're going to be fine. Even if you have any idea about what's going on around you, you take care of you, your family, other people will see it. I'll never forget this. And I'll pass to you, brother. By the way, I am Damon. Is it Damon? Damon?
Damon.
Okay, I'll pass to you next, but I'll never forget this. And this is, it felt good, but it's also an indictment. When my grandson, 3, went to the hospital and they took him in an ambulance, some sort of flu virus or what have you. Took him in the ambulance, and one of the things that the EMTs said, it was 2 black men who happened to be EMTs. And they said, man, they went to my daughter and her husband and said, I'm just so happy to see a black family, this boy with his black mother and black father there. Not knowing, not realizing, hey, guess what? Because at home, there's another black mother, her black mother and father are together. and then his black mother and black father together. That made me feel good, but at the same time, wow, the fact that you had to say that, the fact that it's not the norm, because it's not. 20-something% of us are born without a father there. 60-something% growing up in a household where there is no man. It's not the norm. That's a problem. If we can fix that, how long would it take to fix that? Like that? There's nothing stopping us from doing it. There's nothing. Now, will it happen that way? No. But there's nothing stopping men from marrying the wife that they're going to have, or marrying the woman that's going to have their baby. Don't have a baby with her unless you're not married. That can change right now. Those things can change. Now, it won't, because somebody's going to make us a victim, give us an excuse, say all the different things that are against us, and then we won't. That's exactly how this whole welfare state got to be, because someone told us that you need my help and you can't do it. You shaking your head, but that's exactly what happened. You yourself spoke about the welfare state. But before you jump in, let me let Damon jump in, though.
This is a robust conversation, and again, I want to thank you for bringing me on. I think, from my view, from my perspective, I think everybody can agree that I've heard so far that the Black culture is in a state of array, and it needs addressing. Array. It's torn apart. It's suffering, hemorrhaging. And I think for this to be a channel of believers, I think all can also agree that the result is life in Christ. We need to be able to redeem our culture. I think that when you're talking about a culture like ours that is unique, though, I think with it being multifaceted, I think we can all, or should all, be able to accept the nuances that make our culture what it is. From my point of view, I see a culture that is beautiful. I see a culture that literally is influential across the globe. But I also see a culture that desperately needs redeeming. So whether it is not forgetting our history so that we're not doomed to repeat it, whether it is making sure that those of us that are in sacred spaces of teaching and preaching or evangelizing, that we're doing that with faithfulness and integrity to be able to put forth those models that Brother Corey is speaking about and has spoken about. I think that we have a situation that needs us on multiple platforms from multiple perspectives being able to come together, because I believe that all of it matters. I believe that history matters, not just to give excuse for the condition, but to give us information about what not to repeat. I think there are some in the other communities that also would agree with that, because we see some efforts that have been started down in Florida where now Black culture or Black history is no longer a part of American history. And we have to ask the inquisitive question of, why is that? Why are the Black experiences being erased from the education system? That's just a point. I think also I have personally grown up. I am from up north, born and bred in New Jersey. And so I grow up in the war on drugs. I understand what it is to grow up in a single parent family with a young mother, with a father who was addicted to drugs. So I understand some of that also, because with that comes deficiencies. For example, when you get your life in Christ, there are certain things that need to be healed in our soul. Being able to understand how to heal from the father wounds or the fatherless wounds. You're talking about a people that, when we look at it holistically, whether there are self-inflicted wounds, whether there is Black on Black crimes, we can't negate to look at some of the existential situations that the Black culture has put in and are required to come out of.
What do you mean?
And again, what I mean is that there are some situations that our community at large have been placed in. We've already named them. I don't think it's necessary for
Well, hold on.
continue to.
You say, okay, certain situations that our community has been placed in, like what and by who?
Okay, so we talked about the welfare state. You talk the welfare state.
Mm-hmm.
The young lady that was on earlier talked about civil rights. I may have a nuanced opinion that may be opposed to her perspective about civil rights, because I would see the broad picture of when we did build communities and when we did have places that we recognized Black Wall Street. We have over 100 and some odd communities that Black people have built when we were together, but there was this existential force on the outside that destroyed every last one of those communities. So again, I don't think that's the mainstay, but I think when we're talking about being informed, I think it's important for a younger generation to be informed about the richness of our culture, to be informed about the fabric of our culture, to be informed that men are honorable and that we come from a rich tradition of men who brought their families to church, men who built businesses, not just that we were slaves.
So let me ask you a question. What history, what point in America did we see the greatest gains by Black people? What era?
The greatest gains?
Yeah, the greatest gains, socially, economically. What era did we see? Huh?
You would have to say in the late 1800s. And when you think about the late 1800s, what was the existential reason for that is that we were literally being forced out once the Emancipation Proclamation was declared.
Well, no, the greatest gain socially, economically was from the 1920s up to the 1950s. Some will say
maybe go back further, but I won't argue with your 1950s.
Well, here's the reason why I bring that up. No, they knew of, or some of them, not all, some of them knew about what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma, but Tulsa, Oklahoma was destroyed and they rebuilt it. Now,
and you got about another 100 systems.
There were a couple.
Well, hold on. Here's my point that I'm trying to get you all to understand. They lived through that and never used that as a means or an excuse. They kept on moving. And so my point is, do what?
Can I share something real quick?
Go ahead.
I think the terminology excuse is probably what I'm wrestling with.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see it as an excuse. I see it as an informative piece of being able to hold on to a sense of dignity of what's possible when you get a redeemed life in Christ.
Is it needed?
Because I'm still back with you with our community needing Christ.
But hold on. But is that informed piece of information? Is it needed?
It will help.
Absolutely, because the reason why I say it's needed, because we're literally seeing a generation that have no clue about what it is that you talked about earlier, about when we had the local church and everybody, whether your parents brought you to church or didn't, had respect for the church. We are literally having a generation that has no tether.
So let me ask this question now.
That we come
Has there ever been a time in our history as a country where Black people know more about Black history than now? Has there ever been a time where we knew more about Black history?
No.
So right now we know more about Black history, and So which time did we know more about Black history?
Literally any time before the 70s.
Really? How did they know?
The 70s and 80s. When you get to this generation, fam. Listen, and I say this with all due respect. I don't know at what level you engage with the youth that are actually in the culture today. And I'm saying youth that's 20-somethings and maybe even young 30-somethings. There are fundamental education things that they don't have a clue about, let alone history.
But wait a second, hold on. Let me say this. Everybody Black doesn't know about Black history, but more Black folks know about Black history more now than they did in the 60s, 70s. Yes, they did.
Disagree.
Okay. Well, here's a question. If they did, here's how we know they did. They did. If they did, well, how do we get to the point where we don't know? Did your parents teach you about Black history?
No.
Did they know about it?
I'm literally in the generation coming out of civil rights. I'm your age. Me and you are the same age.
Okay. And so so you and I both know that more people know about, not everybody, but more people know about Black history today. And by the way, they've got more access to it today than they did then.
Access, I agree. But most of the people, I would say, in this generation, again, when we're talking 30 or something, They get most of their news from social media.
So you think my grandmother, you think my mother, your mother, my grandmother, your grandmother, grandfather, and great grandparents, they knew more about Black history and all the things that were going on, not just in their locale, than we do.
But they're a part of it. They're literally making Black history. That's like asking this young brother, what was your name again? Shining. What was your name again?
Jordan Shining Rivers.
That's like asking him to give a reference to the 1980s when there was a war on drugs and what was the scene in the Black culture like. He's not going to be more informed than me because I lived through that history.
Living through the history don't mean you understand. There's a lot of folks that lived through, let's say, the Watts riot and didn't have a clue what was going on. There's folks that lived through the LA riots, didn't know what was going on. There are folks that lived through 9/11 and couldn't tell you. But my point is this, though. Not one bit of that information is the cause for our degradation, nor will it be the key to our coming out of it. None of that. Good to know, nice to know, helpful to know, hey, this person did this. Because the question is, like Hunter said, what is our culture? I don't know what these people's cultures are. I have no idea what informs their thinking. I do know this though. My culture. Say it again.
When you say these, I apologize.
No, you're fine. You're fine. We're good. We're good.
When you say these people, who are you referring to?
Anybody. I don't know what informs anybody's culture or their view.
Okay.
What informs me, my culture is different. My culture is better than anything anybody Black ever did. My culture supersedes the civil rights movement. My culture supersedes any Black inventor or any Black abolitionist. My culture supersedes all of those things. My culture goes one to the cross and then even back further than that. My culture is informed by the scripture, and I'm told to walk in that. I'm telling you, nobody has. Think of all the people that we can just think about the folks who talk about our culture. Just think about the big wigs that we see on TV. Think about them, the ones that we hear about that are really informed. They only make their money because someone's paying them to talk about it. But look at their followers, still struggling.
What do you mean? What do you mean?
I don't see. You rarely see people, and this is why I asked the question. I wasn't trying to be to be mean or whatever. But folks with a certain type of mentality that are more concerned about what other folks are doing, they tend to not make it as far as folks who don't care. I don't care what anybody, white or Black, is doing in terms of how it affects me. Now, I'm aware of it.
I think that's nuanced too, though, Corey.
What do you mean?
And I am the quintessential nuance guy. I am not this or that. I'm this and that. I believe in Christ and His Word, and I believe that we can all get you going. So when we're talking about who gets farther, and things of that nature, I mean that's a nuanced thing because you I am sure you're aware that there is different things even in church culture. If you just
hold on. I gotta ask this question. Sure. So let's say little Johnny here is a teenager.
Yes.
Little Johnny's a teenager and he wants to do the right thing. He's got a father and a mother. He goes to church. He reads his Bible, I guess as much as a teenager would, out of trouble, but doesn't know anything about culture. And I don't know what you mean by our culture or identity, anything like that. I guess that's subjective. It can go for whoever you're talking to. They might have a different view of it. But let's just say it means our history. It means our achievement, what certain people expected at certain times. Say that's what it is. How does little Johnny, who's 15, 16, 17, how does that improve him? What is that going to make him do that he didn't do before? By the way, let me just do this before I forget. I forgot. Caleb's Farm, thank you so much for the super chat. Some of these folks, they did it earlier. I forgot. Also, Thou, thank you for the super chat. Texco says that it's not the music industry's responsibility to raise your child. Amen. The parents are loud, ratchet, and ghetto. Yeah, if your child is listening to that stuff, even though Lil Wayne and whoever else, I don't know who's rapping now. I'm sorry. Look, because I thought this guy with Annie Up was new. I didn't know they were old, but anyway. but I didn't know. I didn't know, y'all. Y'all forgive me. But even though they are doing what they're gonna do, they're out to get theirs. We can't hold them responsible. It's trash music. You shouldn't be listening to it. Brad Nicholson, thank you so much for the super sticker. Kay Kinmack says many African American have forsaken Christianity and embraced witchcraft, New Age. Amen. If our culture is Christ, if our identity is Christ, we're good. To coin the phrase, John Long says, we can't handle the truth. It's almost like we would rather believe what the media. Exactly. Here's what I think we have to figure out, and I'm coming back to you, Damon. Here's what I think we got to figure out. It's not Christ culture plus. It's got to be Christ culture only.
Oh, can I clarify?
Go ahead.
Clarify? Because I don't want to be misunderstood. I agree with you there as well. When I say I can walk and chew gum, what I'm saying is I'm referring to the biblical mandate that we're called to evangelize, right? And then there's a reality that each of us has an audience that we have, the metron. Paul says, I won't boast beyond the sphere of influence that I've been given, right? So wherever your sphere of influence is, there is an effort to evangelize and redeem that group of people or that culture. So when I say that I can be concerned about what's happening in my culture, what I'm also saying is that my culture is a part of my audience. So there are some things that I need to understand about the culture to be able to understand some of their hurdles. There are some things, I mean, even to the degree that there are some things that I would prefer not to watch, but I want to be able to understand the mind of
What
a
is
generation
culture?
that moved from mine. Excuse me?
What is culture? This is how that now because we're going to come to an end, but I said I was going to give you guys my solution, the problems and the solution. But I'm gonna stand by it. I might just make the thumbnail the words a little bit bigger. The worst culture ever. So what is culture? Y'all can look it up. What is culture? Here's what it is: the shared beliefs, values, traditions, and behaviors of a group of people.
Yeah,
The
that was
shared
stripped.
belief, huh?
I said that was stripped. Like once, like what her name, Miss Chapman said, or Mrs. Chapman, I think she's married. Once we integrated with white folk, a lot of our culture was more so it was stripped. It was taken away. Like we not only did we get stripped of our culture, like once we came over, and as many immigrants did, like they made European immigrants change their name. They didn't like your last name, change it. That's why they have a lot of differences now. But with the black community specifically, like folks came over, were beat, raped, breeded, all type of stuff, told they weren't this and that, kept down, oppressed, were freed. Then the 13th Amendment, slavery was basically legalized at that point. Just arrest folks and you can get free labor then. And it just continued. They found new ways of doing new evil. They found new ways of doing the same evil. The issue now, like what you said, which is nothing wrong with it. I don't think anybody here would disagree. Christ should be the culture. The hard part of it is when you see a lot of other cultures in America are able to retain their ancestry and still come to Christ. It's like it's a little rough. It's a little rough. It's like, man, folks get their quinceañeras, folks keep their bar mitzvahs, and then they still get to come to Christ when all we got is all we got.
But let me ask you: don't we see a problem with that in some of our churches, where it ends up being culture over Christ? Let me read the definition. Let me read what it says again: the shared beliefs, values, traditions, and behaviors of a group of people. They're not as they bar their phrase. They're not like us. That's not my culture. Their culture is the worst culture ever because I've never seen that culture. I don't share in them. And just because they're black, now we might share a similar ethnicity, a certain genetic makeup, but we're not like them. My culture is a Christian culture. I've got more in common with the white Christian or the Hispanic Christian or the Korean Christian than I do with these dudes, with some of these folks out here who look like me.
Oh, definitely. Yeah,
so,
I agree. Yeah.
And knowing when, by the way, we sit and talk about history a lot, Damon. Sometimes our understanding and view of it differs, which is fine, because history is not culture. History is not culture, because guess what? All of us didn't. Here's the thing that we do oftentimes, especially nowadays. We oftentimes want to put on the backs of younger folk a painful history that neither we nor they ever experienced, and expect them to carry that. They don't know what slavery is. Jim Crow. Again, there was 1,000-something folks in the chats earlier. We're down to 600-700 now. And I venture to say, I still may say it, because I'm usually the only one that has ever seen a Klansman in their hood with a burning cross. You don't know what that stuff is.
I have.
You have? Okay. Absolutely. Well, again, 99% of people haven't.
You were before, man. I've been verbally attacked before.
Well, we all have.
I used to be. Yeah,
but Jordan, that's life, ain't it?
Like starting racism though, like staunch racism. I wasn't locked up.
Okay.
I wasn't locked up when I was in prison. I was a free man dealing with this type.
You ain't had no. Hold on. You have you seen white folks deal with some black folks attacking them because they were white? I have. Or Hispanics talk. That's an ongoing, always thing. It's always going to be that way until Christ comes back. It's always going to be that way. Who's the only folks that spend the most time complaining about it? When was the last time you seen Asians out there protesting about injustices, or people from Korea, or
they got compensated though? They received their reparations for their little railroad stint.
No.
They received that. We ain't got nothing.
Who got compensated?
The Asian Americans.
Which Asians?
Chinese Americans.
Which Asians? No. Which Asians?
In California, they received compensation.
Which ones?
The ones I just told you, the ones that were did that little railroad stuff over in California.
The Japanese were they were put in internment camps. They received reparations, but what I was trying to get you to say was the people that were affected directly. They were their ancestors.
Basically, you get to just dragged on, and now I don't have to pay y'all. That's shiesty. Because even if you say
shiesty or whatever, it is what it is. You ain't Jordan. You're not about to go back and get it. You're not about to go back and get and reclaim anything.
Well,
just say something really quick, please.
Go ahead, jump in.
Yeah, go ahead, Damon.
I just all right. So I just want to address the one statement Brother Coy made. And Coy, man, I respect you, brother.
Go ahead, brother. We good. I'm not always right.
Little known fact, my son goes to school where you go to school. But here's what I want to say. The school you go to, I don't want to mention it because
DTS?
My son.
He goes DTS. Okay, we good.
So yeah, and I could say a lot about that. Maybe I can talk to you another day. But here's the thing. To say that, so let me agree first. I agree that our community, the Black community, is in shambles. I agree. I am not delusional by any way. But what I will say is to say that they are the worst generation ever.
Who's worse?
And I'll tell you, the 400 years of slavery. I don't know if you can get worse than that on American soil. Hanging people.
Let's think about this.
Bringing people across country on ships.
On a picnic. Come on.
Throwing people over this shit into the ocean. Raping babies and separating families. I don't know if you can get much worse than those 400 years on American soil.
And then saying it's manifest destiny and saying that it's God's will for all this to happen. That's terrible.
And we know, because I'm a Christian, I'm a believer. We know that this was perpetuated by people who claimed the name of Christ. We know that. We know that.
His name. That's why so many Black people are anymore.
I don't know if you can be any more blasphemous, number one, against the name of Christ, to perpetuate such evil in his name and then do it for such a long period of time. I don't know if you get any more terrible than that generation. I I don't know how. That's like apples to oranges to me. I don't really think it's a conversation. Is it terrible in the
Okay,
last
so
30 or 40 years?
now let's start adding this up. Let's start figuring out who was worse. Let's see, the slavers, the ones that sold the other blacks into slavery,
Okay, we
who
talking about
also had
America.
who also had vile practice of slavery in their own country.
Right, it's been
Um,
worldwide. You know that it's in the Bible.
Here's why I say that these folks are worse. As ignorant and as wicked as they were, you can't claim the same ignorance with these folks today. You
But they
can't even
claimed
claim.
it in the name of Jesus, though, Corey.
Excuse me.
Come on, in the name
Oh, no.
of Jesus.
I'm not saying it's not only children.
first
Hold on.
Klux
It's not
Klansman
only
was a
children.
part of the Son. Huh?
It's not only children. This horrible subculture is not. It's not only teenagers. No, it's 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds.
Saying, how do you say it's the worst when you are in reflection of 400 years of passed down generational slavery? Like, I don't know how you get with all, I don't know how you can arrive. Is it terrible? I agree.
It's the
Does
worst.
it need to
Here's
be
why.
doing?
Let me ask you a question. And again, I don't want to make it sound like that.
And I know you know you're not equal. I know you know that that's not the same. But
Oh, I think what we're seeing is worse. I think we got people who will kill others and their own. I think we got kids and young and men, 20s, 30s, 40s, who will kill. There was a couple ones I did. Y'all should have seen the videos I left off where the guy killed his own mother and his daughter. Not didn't have a history of mental illness. Just got mad. One kid kills his whole family. Yeah. Whereas, and I'm not making any excuses for these people at all. I'm not. They're evil, wicked people. At all. What I am saying is this. I've never seen it so bad to where even the kids are this bad. See, it'd be one thing if we had 15-year-old slavers and 12-year-old slavers. It'd be one thing. It'd be one thing if we had them going in and that, because they felt like, some of them, right or wrong, some of them felt a certain way about Africans that they were just taught and told and believed. Some knew better, some did know better. But these young folk, these folks that we see, these 15-year-olds, these 20-year-olds, these 30s, 40s, 50-year-olds who are doing this, no, we kill our own people at a higher rate, higher clip than they did. They at least saw an economic value. We just do it because it's sport. No, we are that culture, and I don't know why you want to claim some identity with these people. These folks are wicked. Can they be redeemed? Sure they can be redeemed. They are.
Even Paul was identifying with his people. Even regardless, I didn't say regardless. Even Paul was identifying with the Jews when they had the hardness of heart. So it's like, I get it though. I get it, Corey, bro. When you got locked up, bro, you cut out all that nonsense.
I think for all of us being believers, I think we need to kind of center ourselves again. Because if we are seeing any degree of humanity as unredeemable, then that goes directly against the power of the blood. If there is a such thing as an unredeemable community of people.
Well, I haven't said that.
No, I'm talking about the way you're inferring.
No, I haven't inferred anything. I'm saying we're gonna call it what it is. We're gonna call them. We are seeing animalistic behavior, but guess what? Yes. Such was I at one point in time. So I'm not saying that they're not. When I say the worst, doesn't mean that they cannot, that they're impossible. So I said that from the beginning. I'm saying it now. Because I say they're the worst, because guess what? Some of those very same slavers became redeemed, right? We have the song Amazing Grace by a slaver. So we have that. I get that. I'm saying that. What I'm telling you is what we see now is on a level to where they don't, not only do they not care about other people who are white or Hispanic, they don't even care about their own. And I mean, when I say their own family members. The boy that had that got killed with his 5-year-old daughter there, he did that. He took her to a place where he knew they was looking for him. He did that. Why? Because he don't care. And so when the Bible says that any man or anyone that doesn't take care or provide for their own, what is he? Worse than an unbeliever. I'm not trying to give out gold medals. Y'all upset it. Let me just say this, and with all due respect. Anyone that's upset with the title of the video, you upset about the wrong thing. You mad about the wrong thing. Without question. You're missing the boat by a mile. Love you, but you missed it. Why? Because if that's what bothers you, because he put it that way, at least it made you think. It leads. No. Listen, don't give any sin any sort of excuse. Ain't nobody out there sinning because of cultural issues, historical understanding or misunderstanding. No one's doing that. They shoot you because they are as low and degraded as possible. And the only way to fix it is to recognize what it is and then give the proper solution, which is if there need to be punishment, fine. And while in the midst of that, you can hear from Christ. But while they're thinking there is a possibility of an excuse or any way out, they'll never change. The biggest reason why some of these people are the way they are is because a lot of us give them an excuse for being the way they are. That's why.
Definitely not doing that.
I'm not saying you. But I've seen enough people in the chat bothered by the title. That title ain't killed nobody. That title ain't messed up nobody's home. And all it did was hurt some black feelings. Well, hurt some more.
I don't think
nobody
for
mad
me,
until
for me, it doesn't hurt my black feelings. What it does is I see you in a certain light, and I don't think that it's an accurate statement. And I know that a part of your platform is built on the accuracy of the statements that you make from the platform. It's not hurting my black feelings because I agree with the statement. But what it does for me is I don't think it's accurate. And I don't think it's accurate.
And I respect that. I respect that, but I'm telling you why I said that, because at least, you know what these slavers wouldn't do? They wouldn't kill their own. Some of these slavers felt like, listen, hold on. Some of these slavers felt like that they were transporting cattle. Now, right or wrong,
and
some
what,
of them.
What about when they raped our women, and then you had the daughters?
Listen. I understand they were taken to these stations. They had babies cut out of their stomachs, raped them. They were in order to dehumanize them. I get that.
So
I get that.
Destroying your own.
And then you drive over to 42nd and Post in Indianapolis. You drive to Second over to Fair Park here, or you go someplace in New York, or you go someplace in Miami, what have you, and you're gonna see black folks doing the very same thing that slavers did to their own people, and making money off of it the same way. My point is and here's the problem: they have absolutely not. They had excuses either, but even more so today. Even more so, they're not doing it for, and by the way, they're not even doing it for an economic reason. They're doing it again just cause.
So okay, I don't want to belabor this, but I would have to push back on that.
You can push back on it.
If I came into your house and I stole bricks from the foundation of your home, if I took walls and I began to break those walls down, and then I started splicing some of your pipes to your sewage line. Not enough to damage it all the way, but enough that in a little bit of time, your sewage is going to have major needs for repair.
Yep.
And then I stood back and then I said, look at Corey living in deplorable means. Look at how Corey is living over there with his family.
That'd be horrible.
I feel like we're overlooking some obvious
I
things.
get that. I get everything you just said. Now, can I change it?
Point, but we can't overlook.
But what happens Damon, what happens the very same scenario you painted? If you did that and it was your own house, what's worse?
I totally get it.
What's worse? What's worse, the person who thinks you're the enemy doing that, or you doing it to your own family? What's worse?
Corey, I am in 100% agreement.
You didn't answer my question.
No,
what's worse?
That's nuance because
so let me ask you a question. Let's put it the other way. Let's say person comes in, robs my house, shoots up the place, steals things, right? That's bad, right?
Deserves to be punished.
No. But I would feel bad. Would you? Would you feel worse if it was your own son?
For sure.
That's my point. That's my point.
Yeah,
It'd be different if it was some foreign enemy doing it to you. It's your own people who know you. That's my point.
But I think we're making 2 points on 2 different spectrums.
Yeah,
We're kind of going back.
No,
and forth.
my point is these
We're
folks
talking
have
about the
they have no set of values, don't care about values unless someone
agree.
puts it in there. This is, as far as I'm concerned, the worst I've ever seen people behave.
Well, that could be true if you say the worst you've ever seen. I can
The
go
word
along with
and even in comparison with other historical facts. I could be, now someone is obliged to have their own opinion. That difference.
I don't know, man. The picnics was rough back then, man.
What picnics?
You can Google pictures of picnics. You ain't heard about you don't know about picnics?
Which pictures you talking about?
You know the history of the word picnic. You pick an N-word and hang an N-word. They will have barbecues, white kids and families,
So
literally this is an event. Like this used to happen, dude.
So let's do this. I didn't say. Listen, whites kill their own too. You're absolutely right. Whites kill their own too. Hispanics now. Who does it to a higher degree? All the things that we complain about, we do it to ourselves at a higher clip. That's my only point. And we do it with callousness. We do it to where we prepare our children to go out and do it. We prepare them to be the next generation of fast, loose women. Violent men. We are preparing our children that way. We rear them that way. We give them music to get them intoxicated about that. We glorify it, and then go out and shoot up any and everybody without any malice or forethought, thinking we're going to get out, and then we get our hand slapped, come back out and do it again. Whether your age, it doesn't matter. What you've gone through, it doesn't matter. So, but listen, I got to go ahead and move though, guys. I got to go ahead and jump off because I've got to. Been on 3 hours now. Didn't mean to be.
So how do we get the gospel? I think that's the question. Even with your perspective, how do we get the gospel to a space that we know needs to be redeemed? Because we can't just point at them.
That's what I said earlier. Here's the solution. The problem. The solution to the problem. The problem is what? Let's put this back on the screen. I covered this earlier. The problem is their heart.
I missed that.
Right.
I'm sorry.
It's not what enters the mouth that defiles a man, but what comes out of the mouth.
Correct.
Because that proceeds out of his heart. It is the heart. I got the wrong scripture up. I'm sorry. I got the wrong one up. But it is the heart that determines what a person is going to do, how they think, how they feel. So their issue is the heart. Now, I can't change the heart. You can't change the heart. None of us can change their heart. But we can be used by the Lord to facilitate that change. And so what do? 2 things. Let our light shine, be the godly witness in action and in word before the people, and then share the gospel. If God perhaps uses that to regenerate that heart, amen. If he doesn't, amen also. All we can do is all we can do. You can go to the worst place in Chicago, the worst place in New Jersey, or here in Dallas, and I can promise you the majority of folks that hear the gospel and see our good light, they're still not going to change. Recognize that. Protect the people, the flock from the wolves while giving the gospel. If they're in prison, let someone go. Jesus says, you didn't even visit me while I was in prison. Needed that. Let someone go. Be the people that want to go to prison. Send them Bibles, which we'll be doing, by the way, shameless plug, which we'll be doing this summer, back off and sending Bibles to inmates and so forth. But go visit them. Go to the shelters. Be on the street, or just be a witness around your office, around your home, around your church, around your neighborhood, the grocery store. That's the solution. It's a pretty simple solution. It's pretty simple. We just don't do it. That's all. We just don't do it. So listen, guys, I gotta run. I gotta get some closing thoughts. I appreciate this, guys. I may or may not be back on tomorrow morning. I'm not sure. But in the meantime, and Jordan still hadn't called me yet. He was supposed to, but he hadn't called me yet. Maybe he will.
I thought that was Sunday.
You didn't call me.
Today ain't Sunday, it's Friday.
You listen, you can call me whenever you want to, brother. You can call me whenever you want to. I'm here. All right, brothers. Y'all take care. Damon, good meeting you, brother.
Thank you.
All right.
Take it easy.
So now let me just say this and I'm leaving. Let me just do this. Let me do this. Believe that. You know what? When people who look like them are afraid to go around them, what other culture did we see that in? When the people who look like them, who had some shared semblance of values, even the slaveholders, at least their people, they felt safe around them, didn't they? What about the Nazis? At least their people felt. These folks, nobody feels safe around them. So we got an issue, y'all. We got an issue. And I'm not going to be nice and happy about it. Now, this is me, because anyone that knows me, when I deal with them, I'm the kind of person, I'll talk to you. I'll talk to you straight. I don't care how bad you are, how horrible you are. If I know that you're one of those kind of young men or women out there, and I'll talk to you. Now, I probably won't do it if I've got my family with me. In other words, I'm not going to have them in a dangerous spot. But if I go into a store or something like that and I see one of these guys like that, I'm going to take the time and talk. That's what I always do. And I'm going to talk to them straight. And I'm going to tell them where they're headed. And I'm telling them where they could go if they change. Because I believe that a lot of them just simply need somebody to do so. They need somebody in their life to give them two things. To give them the truth and to do so with love. That's what they do. That's what they don't get. They don't get those two things. And when I say truth, I mean the truth of the gospel and the truth about where they're headed. The truth about I said before, and I'll close on this. When you guys are trying to get somewhere, you've been either at a mall, you've been at a amusement park, and you didn't know where to go. You knew where you wanted to go. You just didn't know where it was. And you go to the directory and you see, oh, there it is. You saw it. It's up over here in this corner over here. There it is. But you got one other problem. The problem is you don't know where you are. So you got to go back to the directory and look on there. There's going to be an X, a square, or a circle. And it's going to say, here you are. You are here. And so what you got to figure out is where you are. This is where I am. You'll either find out that I'm close to my destination or I'm a long way away. If I'm a long way away, no problem. I wish I were closer. No problem. But at least I know, because now I know the direction I should go into. We, as people that have the same hue and skin tone as I have, we tend not to we want to know where we're going, but we rarely want to go and look at where we are. This is where we are. And these young folk in their 20s, 30s, 40s, what have you, or teenagers, these young folk, they are in this spot, and we want to make them feel good about the spot they're in. No, you guys are on your way to hell. You little kids with these little AKs or with these AR-15s or the whatever, you're on your way to hell. You're on your way to hell with your kind. And until you realize that, and we want to stop being nice to them, that's what's wrong with half your kids anyway, because you talk too nice to them. You don't want to hurt their feelings. You don't want them to come to grips with reality. And so when they get older, they can't cope. They want to go and shoot up someplace or what have you. They want to do something or kill themselves and everybody else with them. Because you thought that it was time to tiptoe around the tulips. Again, and I'll say that I don't mean to be mean, but y'all, I want you all to pray about this. If that thumbnail bothered you, that thumbnail ain't hardly the problem. It ain't hardly the problem. The problem is the fact that we are not being resolved in our stance for Christ and against sin. So, guys, I love you. Don't hate me. If you feel like I was wrong, pray for me. I still love every last one of those people. I would do everything I could if I could. But I'm not going to sugarcoat and not going to water down the gospel or the truth. Amen.